The highway stretched out before me, an endless ribbon of asphalt cutting through the darkness. It was the kind of road that made you feel small, insignificant, like a single dot moving through a vast, empty world. The moon hung low in the sky, its dim light barely piercing the heavy clouds. The only sounds were the hum of my car engine and the faint hiss of tires on the road. I glanced at the dashboard clock. 2:47 a.m. I should have stayed at the lake cabin like my friend suggested. But I'd felt an inexplicable urge to leave, a pull toward home I couldn't ignore. The thought of sleeping in my own bed outweighed the idea of driving 3 hours alone in the dead of night. The first hour passed uneventfully. I kept the windows down to stave off the drowsiness creeping in, letting the cold night air slap me awake. Occasionally, I'd pass a road sign or an abandoned gas station, their dim neon lights flickering like ghosts in the night. But then, something changed. The road seemed darker, the headlights struggling to cut through the gloom. The trees lining the highway were dense now, their branches twisting together like skeletal fingers. The air felt heavier, pressing down on me, and a faint chill ran through the car, even with the windows closed. That's when I saw her. At first, she was just a blur in the distance, a pale smudge against the black backdrop of the road. As I drew closer, her figure came into focus. She was standing on the shoulder, facing the road, her thumb raised in the universal gesture for a ride. I slowed down instinctively, my foot hovering over the brake. She was young, maybe 18 or 19, with long, dark hair cascading over her shoulders. She wore a white dress that seemed too clean, too pristine for someone hitchhiking in the middle of the night. My stomach twisted. Every instinct screamed at me to keep driving. There was something about her, something not right. But then I thought about how isolated this stretch of highway was, how far she must be from help. What if she was in trouble? What if no one else came along? I pulled over, rolling down the passenger window. The car idled, its engine the only sound breaking the oppressive silence. "Do you need a ride?" I called out. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood motionless, staring at me. Her face was pale, almost unnaturally so, and her eyes seemed too dark, like they absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. Finally, she nodded and walked toward the car. Her bare feet crunched on the gravel shoulder, leaving faint tracks in the dust. I unlocked the door, and she slid into the passenger seat without a word. "Where are you headed?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. "Just down the road," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her answer wasn't helpful, but I nodded and put the car in drive. The wheels rolled forward, the rhythmic hum of the tires, the only thing breaking the silence. For the next several minutes, neither of us spoke. She stared straight ahead, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I couldn't help sneaking glances at her. Up close, she looked even younger than I'd first thought. Her skin was flawless but unnaturally pale, almost translucent in the dim light. Her hair hung limp around her face, and her lips were a faint, unnatural shade of blue. "Are you okay?" I finally asked, unable to bear the silence any longer. She didn't respond. She just kept staring out the windshield, her expression blank. A strange sense of unease crept over me. The air inside the car felt colder, and I noticed that the dashboard lights seemed dimmer than before. "You shouldn't have stopped," she said suddenly, her voice so soft I almost didn't hear it. Her words sent a chill down my spine. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to mask my unease. But she didn't answer. She just turned her head slowly to look at me, her dark eyes meeting mine. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. There was something in her gaze, something ancient and hollow, like staring into the void. Before I could say anything else, she turned back to the road. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating, as the highway stretched on endlessly into the night. The tension in the car was suffocating. I could feel her presence beside me like a weight pressing down on my chest. She sat unnervingly still, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her gaze fixed straight ahead. The rhythmic hum of the tires on the asphalt seemed deafening in the silence. I stole another glance at her, hoping to read something, anything, in her expression. But her face was impassive, like a porcelain doll's. The only movement was the occasional flicker of her hair in the faint breeze from the car vents. "Do you live around here?" I asked, desperate to break the silence. She didn't answer right away. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Just as I was about to repeat the question, she whispered, "I used to." Her words hung in the air like a bad smell, and I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. "Used to?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She turned her head slightly toward me but didn't meet my eyes. "It's been a long time." I didn't know what to say to that, so I focused on the road, gripping the wheel tightly. The highway ahead seemed endless. An unbroken ribbon of black cutting through the trees. The headlights barely pierced the darkness, and the further we drove, the more the trees seemed to crowd in, their branches clawing at the edges of the road. Something about the landscape felt off. I'd driven this stretch before on my way to the cabin, but I didn't recognize anything now. The road felt narrower, the turns sharper. I told myself it was just the late hour playing tricks on my mind, but deep down, I wasn't so sure. "What's your name?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She hesitated for a moment, then said, "Dawn." The irony wasn't lost on me. Her name, a promise of light, felt out of place in the oppressive darkness surrounding us. I started, but she cut me off. "It doesn't matter." Her tone was flat, final. The unease in my chest tightened like a fist, but I forced a smile, hoping to lighten the mood. "Well, Dawn, you're lucky I came along. Not a lot of cars out at this hour." She didn't respond. Instead, she tilted her head slightly as if listening to something I couldn't hear. Then she whispered, "He's close." A chill swept through the car, colder than the night air. I glanced in the rearview mirror instinctively, half expecting to see someone or something following us. But the road behind was empty, stretching into the black void. "Who's close?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my best efforts to stay calm. She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed her hands against the dashboard, leaning forward slightly, her gaze locked on something ahead. "Slow down," she said sharply. Her sudden urgency jolted me, and I instinctively eased off the gas. The car's headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the asphalt. The car skidded to a stop, mere feet from the figure, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. It was a man, or at least it looked like one. He was tall and broad-shouldered, his face obscured by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. He wore a long coat that flapped slightly in the breeze, but he didn't move. He just stood there, perfectly still, as if he'd been waiting for us. I turned to Dawn, my voice rising with panic. "What the hell is this?" She didn't answer. She was staring at the figure with an expression I couldn't quite place. Was it fear? Anger? Resignation? "He's here," she said, her voice trembling for the first time. Before I could react, the figure took a step forward. Then another. The headlights illuminated his face, or rather the absence of one. His features were a blur, like smoke trapped under glass, shifting and impossible to pin down. Dawn grabbed my arm, her grip ice cold. "Drive," she hissed. My instincts screamed at me to obey, but my body felt frozen, paralyzed by the impossibility of what I was seeing. The figure took another step closer, and the car's interior seemed to grow darker, the air heavier. "Drive," she shouted, and the sound of her voice snapped me out of my stupor. I slammed my foot on the gas, the tires screeching as the car lurched forward. The figure didn't move out of the way, but when we passed through where he should have been, there was nothing. No impact, no sound. Just empty air. I didn't dare look back. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely keep the wheel steady. Dawn was silent again, her face turned toward the window. "What the hell just happened?" I demanded, my voice cracking. She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "You shouldn't have stopped." Her words sent a fresh wave of dread crashing over me, and for the first time I realized I might not make it off this highway. I kept my foot firmly pressed on the accelerator, my hands tight on the wheel. The road stretched out before us, impossibly long, with the trees on either side seeming to close in even more. The air inside the car had grown heavier, colder. I could see my breath in the rearview mirror, even though the heater was on full blast. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The figure, no, whatever it was, had been standing in the road, so close I could almost hear it breathing. But when we passed through, it was like it had never existed. "Did you see that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, but Dawn didn't answer. Her silence was deafening. I glanced over at her, but she was staring out the window, her face unreadable. I wanted to ask her again what was going on, but I was afraid. What if she wasn't just some lost traveler? What if she knew something I didn't? I felt a cold sweat on the back of my neck and a gnawing sensation deep in my stomach. This wasn't just a weird coincidence. Something was wrong, and I was trapped in it. I tried to focus on the road, on the black stretch of asphalt that seemed endless, but the trees weren't the same anymore. They weren't like the trees I had seen when I first drove down this road. They were too tall, too dark, their branches twisting and reaching like claws, scratching at the sky. I blinked, convinced I was imagining it, but when I looked again, they were still there. Unnaturally twisted and bent, their trunks knotted in ways that didn't belong. I could feel my pulse quicken, my grip tightening on the steering wheel. "Do you know where we are?" I asked Dawn, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't recognize anything." Dawn didn't answer. I glanced over at her again. Her eyes were wide, her expression frozen, staring out the window like she was seeing something beyond the trees. Suddenly, the car slowed. No, it wasn't me. The engine sputtered, and the headlights flickered. I slammed my foot down on the pedal, but it was like the car had a mind of its own, refusing to go any faster. Then, a low, guttural growl filled the air, vibrating through the car's metal frame. It wasn't coming from the engine, it wasn't coming from anywhere in the car, it was coming from the trees. My heart stopped. I slammed my foot back on the brake, but the car barely slowed. The growl grew louder, more intense, and then came the sound of something moving through the forest. Something large. The shadows between the trees seemed to shift, warping like smoke, and then, in a blink, something emerged. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light. But no, there it was, stepping out of the trees like it had been waiting for us. A figure. No, more like a shape, a mass, impossibly large, its edges shifting and writhing like liquid shadow. It had the form of a man, but the features were indistinguishable, like the darkness had swallowed them whole. It was walking toward us, its steps slow but deliberate. I froze. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My foot was frozen on the brake, and all I could do was stare as it approached. The growl, that low, terrifying sound, intensified with each step it took. Dawn spoke then, her voice trembling, but it was too late. "Don't look at it." I didn't understand what she meant, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. The figure was so close now I could feel its presence pressing against the car. It didn't move like a person, it slithered, like it was gliding, its form never quite solid. The air around it shimmered, warping and distorting. Without thinking, I slammed the car into drive and floored the gas. The car jerked forward, screeching, the engine roaring as it fought against the weight of whatever was pressing down on us. The figure stayed there, just at the edge of the headlights, watching us go. We were moving faster now, but the road stretched ahead, just as dark, just as endless. The trees blurred past in a sickening swirl of black and green. I dared a glance at the rearview mirror. The figure was gone. But the road was wrong. The curves weren't where they should be. The signs didn't match the ones I had passed earlier. And the trees, they kept coming, closer, darker, as if they were swallowing us whole. I felt my stomach churn and I turned to Dawn again. "Where are we? What's happening?" Her eyes were wide, her face pale, but she was shaking her head. "I told you, you shouldn't have stopped." The words hit me like a slap. What had she meant? I didn't understand. "I don't know how to get out of here," I whispered, more to myself than to her. She reached over and grabbed my arm, her fingers like ice. "There is no way out," she said, her voice barely a whisper. And that's when I realized I had been on this road too long. Far too long. This wasn't just a detour, this was something else. And I was trapped in it. The car continued down the road, but the landscape outside was no longer anything I recognized. I'd driven these roads countless times before, but now they felt unfamiliar, hostile. The trees, which had once seemed so ordinary, now looked like towering sentinels, their twisted limbs reaching out toward the car as if trying to claw their way inside. The road had narrowed even further, and I could feel the air growing thicker, almost suffocating. I glanced at the gas gauge. The needle was dangerously close to empty. My heart skipped a beat. I knew there wasn't a gas station for miles, and that meant, "We need to stop," I said, my voice shaky. I didn't want to say it, but I had to. We're gonna run out of gas soon. Dawn didn't react, but her face was even paler now. She was staring straight ahead, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Her lips were moving, but there was no sound. I couldn't hear anything coming from her, and yet I could see the faint movement of her mouth as if she was speaking to herself. "Dawn?" I said, trying to get her attention. She didn't answer. I took my eyes off the road for just a moment to look at her, but when I looked back, I saw something in the headlights that made my blood run cold. A figure. It was standing at the side of the road, just beyond the reach of the headlights. I slammed my foot on the brake, but the car didn't slow down. It was as though the brakes had no effect, as if the car itself was no longer in my control. I had no choice but to keep driving toward the figure, unable to stop. The shape was dark, indistinct, like the shadows had solidified into form. It wasn't moving. It was just standing there, waiting for us. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to scream, to beg for it to move, but the words wouldn't come. The figure loomed larger as we got closer, but it didn't step aside. It didn't even flinch. At the last moment, I swerved, narrowly avoiding it, the tires screeching on the asphalt. The car lurched to the side but stayed on the road, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I didn't dare look back, but I could feel the weight of its gaze. "What the hell is happening?" I breathed. Dawn finally turned toward me, her eyes wide, pupils dilated, her breath shallow. She looked like she hadn't seen the figure, but I knew better. There was no way she hadn't. "You shouldn't have stopped," she repeated, her voice a hollow whisper. "You should have kept going." "Kept going?" I repeated, my voice breaking. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Her eyes locked on mine, her face twisted in a grimace of pain. "We're trapped," she said, her voice so soft it was barely a murmur. "You can't escape now." I felt a cold wave wash over me. "What do you mean, trapped?" She didn't answer. She just turned back to the window, her face empty, like she had already resigned herself to whatever fate awaited us. I tried to push the thought from my mind, focusing instead on the road, but it was no use. The trees were too close now, their dark silhouettes pressing in on us. The road ahead was a never-ending stretch of asphalt that seemed to loop back on itself. I glanced at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the figure again, but there was nothing behind us. Still, the unease in my chest gnawed at me, gnawing away at my sanity. The world outside felt wrong. The air, the road, the silence, it was all wrong. "Where's the exit?" I asked desperately. "Where's the way out of here?" Dawn's lips trembled, her voice a barely audible whisper. "There is no exit." I turned to her, my mind racing. "What do you mean?" "I've driven these roads before. I know there's an exit up ahead." Her eyes never left the window. "It's all a circle," she said, her voice distant, like she was speaking from another place entirely. "You'll keep driving, and you'll keep seeing the same things, the same trees, the same road. You'll never get out. Not unless it lets you." The words hung in the air like a curse, and for the first time, I started to believe them. The weight of it settled over me like a heavy shroud, and I felt the car grow colder. The very air inside the car seemed to grow thick with something I couldn't name, something ancient, something hungry. I forced myself to look at the road ahead, but the landscape had changed again. The trees, which had been tightly packed together before, were now spaced far apart. The road was opening up, stretching wider, but the horizon was swallowed by an impenetrable fog. I blinked, and for a moment, it felt like the world was holding its breath. And then, in the distance, I saw it. A small, dilapidated house, its outline barely visible through the mist. A house? Why was there a house out here? There was nothing else, just the road and the trees, and now this lonely house standing against the dark sky like some kind of twisted mirage. "We need to stop," I said again, my voice trembling. "I need to check it out. There might be someone there." But Dawn's grip on my arm tightened painfully, and I felt the coldness of her fingers burn through my jacket. "Don't go near it," she said, her voice harsh now, filled with fear. "It's a trap." I was about to argue, but before I could, the car lurched again as though it had hit an invisible wall. The engines sputtered, and the lights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows on the fog-filled road. And then, for the briefest of moments, the fog cleared. The house was gone. I slammed the brakes, heart racing, but there was nothing there. The road was empty again, stretching on forever, as if the house had never been there at all. "What is happening?" I gasped, my voice barely audible. Dawn turned to me, her eyes wide with fear. "I told you, you can't escape." The fog had thickened once more, but the road ahead remained endless, and in the distance I saw it again, the shape of a figure standing just at the edge of the road, waiting. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being followed. The fog outside had thickened even further, swirling around us like a living thing. My headlights barely cut through it. And every time I tried to focus on the road ahead, the darkness seemed to stretch, pulling at the edges of my vision, distorting reality. The air was heavy, thick with an oppressive silence that had started to gnaw at my nerves. The only sound was the hum of the engine, which seemed louder now. Somehow unnatural, I glanced at Dawn. Her face was a mask of fear, her wide eyes reflecting the faint light. She was still clutching her arms, rocking back and forth slightly, as if trying to soothe herself. "We have to keep moving," I said, trying to convince myself more than her. My voice was hoarse, a whisper of its usual confidence. There has to be an end to this road somewhere. But Dawn didn't respond. She just kept staring out of the window, her eyes locked on something I couldn't see. She was trembling. I looked back at the road, but now I was certain I saw something in the distance. Movement, maybe a shadow, something shifting just outside my line of sight. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, but the car barely sped up. It was as if the road itself was resisting, holding us in place. "Why isn't it moving?" I muttered under my breath. Dawn slowly turned toward me, her face even paler than before. "Because it's not supposed to." Her voice was cracked, barely audible over the roar of the engine. "This place, it doesn't let you leave." A chill shot down my spine. "What are you talking about? What place?" She closed her eyes for a moment, as though summoning strength before looking back at me. "The road is a loop, a trap. The more you drive, the more it pulls you in. You'll never get out, not unless you—" She stopped herself, her eyes flicking nervously to the rearview mirror. "We have to stop now." My stomach twisted. "Why? What's back there?" But I didn't need her to answer. I saw it in the mirror. A figure, standing in the road, right behind us. It was blurry, the fog distorting its shape, but there was no mistaking the long, tattered cloak, the thin, almost skeletal hands reaching toward the car. I jerked the wheel, swerving hard to the left, narrowly missing the figure. The car spun, tires screeching, and I slammed into something. No, someone. Dawn screamed, her body jerking violently against the seatbelt as I fought to regain control. The steering wheel shook in my hands, and the car fishtailed, sliding dangerously across the slick road. The fog had become suffocating now, thick and impenetrable, wrapping around us like a shroud. I gripped the wheel with all my strength, but the car didn't slow. It felt like we were being pulled forward, dragged into the darkness, no matter how much I tried to break free. "Dawn, please," I shouted, turning to her. "What the hell is going on?" But she wasn't looking at me anymore. Her eyes were wide, staring out of the passenger window, her face expressionless. "They're here," she whispered, barely audible. "They've always been here." I whipped my head around, staring out into the fog, but there was nothing there. No figures, no shadows, just the dense, suffocating mist creeping into every corner of the car. "How?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "The ones who keep us here," she replied, her voice cold, almost robotic. "The ones who trap us on this road." I didn't understand. I couldn't. But the growing sense of dread was undeniable. The car was moving faster now, faster than it should have been, as if something else was controlling it. I pressed the brake harder, but it was as though the pedal had no effect. I looked at the fuel gauge again. The needle was empty. How could that be? We'd only just filled up. Something was wrong. Something wasn't right. Suddenly, a voice pierced the stillness. It was faint at first, like a whisper, barely a breath against the roar of the engine. But it grew louder, clearer, until it was unmistakable. "Help us." I froze, my blood turning to ice. The voice wasn't coming from inside the car. It was coming from outside, from the fog, from the very air itself. The sound seemed to echo in my head, a twisted, desperate plea. "Help us." I slammed my hands over my ears, trying to block it out, but the words wouldn't go away. They filled my mind, grew louder, more insistent. "Help us, before it's too late." "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The fog parted briefly, and in that fleeting moment, I saw them. Figures, too many to count, lurking in the mist, their forms barely visible, their faces hidden in shadow. They moved toward the car, a slow, haunting procession, their eyes glowing faintly, like embers in the dark. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest, but Dawn was still sitting motionless beside me, her eyes empty, her face a mask of despair. The road stretched on, never ending, like a twisted eternity. There was no way out. I pressed the gas pedal again, harder this time, desperate to escape. But the road wouldn't give way. The fog grew thicker. The figures grew closer. And the voices, they whispered louder now, all around us, filling the car. Help us, before it's too late. I couldn't breathe. The car was suffocating me, the voices drowning me, and I knew with every fiber of my being that we were never going to leave this road. We were trapped. Forever. I don't know how long we've been driving. It could have been hours or days. The fog has swallowed us whole, and time no longer seems to exist in this place. The road stretches on endlessly, as if mocking our desperate attempts to escape. Every time I glance at the rearview mirror, the figures are closer, their hollow eyes staring, waiting. Dawn is silent now. Too silent. Her earlier panic has faded into an eerie calm, but it's worse than her screams. She doesn't move, doesn't blink. She's staring straight ahead, her eyes locked onto the road, as though there's something in the distance she's waiting for. I keep trying to talk to her, to get her to snap out of whatever trance she's fallen into, but she never responds. I keep hearing the whispers. They've become a constant presence, a low hum that buzzes in my ears, echoing in my mind. Help us, help us, help us. I can't tell if it's coming from the car, the fog, or inside my own head. It's like the words are embedded in the very air around us, impossible to escape. The voices are relentless, digging into my mind, growing more insistent, more desperate. Please, please help us. I snap, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turn white. Shut up. Please, just shut up. But the voices don't stop. They never stop. I'm losing my mind. I know I am. The fog is playing tricks on me now, warping the road ahead. The shadows on the side of the road move, like figures lurking just beyond the edge of my vision. But when I focus on them, they disappear, only to reappear again a few seconds later, closer. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if any of this is real. The car slows, and I don't even realize it at first. I think I've been pressing the brake, but the pedal is unresponsive. I try again, my foot slamming down harder this time, but the car keeps creeping forward. It's almost as though the road is pulling us, dragging us in, like something is reaching up from beneath it, pulling at the tires. Dawn, I croak, trying to turn toward her. She doesn't respond. Her eyes are vacant. Her lips are moving, but I can't hear what she's saying. The words are drowned out by the deafening silence that presses in on us. I look back at the road. The fog has thickened even more, turning the headlights into mere flashes of light that struggle to break through the wall of white. Suddenly, a figure steps into the road. I slam on the brakes, but the car doesn't stop. It plows straight toward the figure, the headlights revealing nothing more than a blurry shape, a silhouette. The car jerks violently, throwing me forward. I hear a sickening thud as if we've hit something. But when I look up, the road is empty. There's nothing there. What? I begin, but my words are lost as the car veers to the right, almost out of control. The wheel jerks in my hands as if someone is tugging at it, forcing it, and I have no choice but to fight against it, desperately trying to steer us back on course. But there is no course. There is no road. The fog consumes everything. I blink, and when my eyes open again, we're back where we started. The same stretch of road. The same endless fog. It's like nothing has changed. How is this possible? My voice shakes as I press my hands against the dashboard, trying to understand what's happening. This can't be real. The whispers return, louder now, pressing in from all sides. Help us! Help us! Help us! And then a voice I recognize. Jason. My heart skips a beat. I whip around to face Dawn, but she's not looking at me. Her head is tilted at an unnatural angle, her eyes wide and unblinking, staring at the fog outside. She's whispering something under her breath. Jason, you shouldn't have come back. What? I rasp, trying to grab her shoulder, but my hand passes through her like she's nothing more than smoke. Suddenly, the car jerks again, and I feel something cold press against my chest, like an invisible weight pushing me deeper into the seat. No, no, please, I gasp, trying to breathe. What do you want from me? The car stops, and the fog clears just enough to reveal a figure standing in front of us. It's a man. No, it's a thing. Its face is obscured by a mask made of twisted, cracked skin, and its body is draped in what looks like a long, tattered cloak. But what catches my attention is its eyes. They're glowing, pale, ghostly blue, like lanterns in the dark. The whispers stop. It steps toward us, slowly, its movements jerky, unnatural. I try to put the car into reverse, but it's no use. The gears won't budge. The engine sputters, dying. Please, I beg, my voice trembling. Please let me go. But the figure doesn't speak. It only raises a hand, its long fingers curling toward me, beckoning me forward. The fog begins to close in around us again. The car's windows fog up, blurring my vision. My heart races, the panic setting in deeper. I'm sorry, I whisper, not knowing if I'm apologizing to the thing outside, to Dawn, or to myself. The figure moves closer, and then it speaks. Welcome home. I scream, but the sound is lost in the void. I wake up, gasping for air, a harsh, ragged breath that feels like I've been drowning. My chest heaves, but there's no relief. The suffocating fog is gone, and the silence is almost too heavy to bear. The car is still. I'm still here, sitting in the driver's seat, my hands locked on the wheel, but something's different. Dawn is gone. I twist in my seat, panic rising like bile in my throat. Dawn? Dawn, I scream, my voice cracking, but she's not there. Her side of the car is empty, the seatbelt unbuckled, as if she vanished into thin air. The fog is back, but this time it's not just around the car, it's inside it. The air is thick, suffocating, and it smells of decay. The windows are covered in a layer of moisture, fogging up from the inside as if the car itself is breathing. I wipe at the glass, desperate to see, but it's no use. The view is distorted, a swirl of white and gray, like a dream that's slipping away. I rub my eyes, but when I open them again, I see something. A shadow. It's outside the car, moving slowly across the fog. It looks human, but there's something off about the way it moves, something unnatural. The figure doesn't walk, it glides, floating just above the ground, its shape shifting with each step as if it's caught in the wind. It's wearing a cloak that seems to ripple like smoke. I freeze, my breath catching in my throat. It's the same figure, the one from before, the one with the glowing eyes. I don't know why, but I can't look away. My heart pounds in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears, drowning out everything else. The figure moves closer, and I can feel its gaze through the fog, its eyes boring into me like they're burning holes through the very air. Dawn, I whisper, hoping for some sign, some answer. But there's nothing. The only sound is my own voice, trembling in the silence. The figure stops just outside the car, its face still hidden by the twisted mask of cracked skin. The eyes are the only thing I can see, glowing eerily in the fog. They burn, a piercing blue that stares right through me, as if it knows everything. Every mistake, every regret, every moment I wish I could take back. Then it lifts a hand, a long, skeletal finger pointing toward me. Come, it whispers, though the voice is more of a feeling than an actual sound. It's like the words are pressed directly into my mind, cold and insistent. I want to scream, I want to run, but my body won't move. I can't tear my eyes away from those glowing blue orbs. My hands grip the steering wheel so hard my knuckles are white, and I try to shake the fog out of my mind, try to make sense of what's happening, but it's slipping like sand through my fingers. And then I hear it. A low sound, almost imperceptible at first but growing louder. It's a whisper, a chant. Help us, help us, help us. The words are growing, rising in intensity. They feel like they're coming from everywhere, surrounding me, pressing down on my chest. I can't breathe. The air is thick, suffocating. My vision goes blurry and the fog is choking me, pulling me under. And then, Dawn's voice. I can hear her. It's faint at first, but it's there, unmistakable. Her voice. Jason, help me. I jerk around in my seat, my head spinning. She's back. She has to be. But when I look, there's no one. The car is still empty. The figure is closer now, its glowing eyes just inches from the window. Its hand reaches out, pressing against the glass. I can see the shadow of its fingers as they press against the fogged-up window, leaving behind a mark, a trail of condensation. I can't breathe. My heart is beating so fast it feels like it's going to explode. I don't know how much longer I can take this. The whispering is louder now, deafening, 1,000 voices crashing into my skull, tearing at the walls of my sanity. The figure steps back, its shape blurring in the mist. It moves around the car, circling it like a predator, and I'm paralyzed. My hands glued to the wheel, my body frozen in terror. And then, without warning, the car lurches forward. The engine roars to life, and I'm thrown against the seatbelt as the car speeds down the road. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how I'm driving. The fog has consumed everything. The road, the trees, the world outside, it's all swallowed up by the white abyss. But the figure is still with me. It's in the back seat now. I can feel it. I can feel its presence pressing against me, breathing behind me. It's waiting. Jason, help me. I turn in the seat, heart pounding. Dawn is there, but she's not Dawn. She's different. Her eyes are wide, vacant, like she's staring straight into nothing. Her skin is pale, almost gray. Her mouth moves, but it's not her voice anymore. It's something else. Jason, the voice rasps, low and guttural. You shouldn't have come back. And then I hear the scream. A blood-curdling scream from somewhere far away, somewhere deep in the fog. It's a scream I recognize, a scream I know all too well. It's mine. The car accelerates again, faster this time, as if the road itself is pulling us forward. I can't stop it. I can't slow down. The figure's eyes glow brighter, the light blinding now, filling the car, suffocating me in its radiance. The road stretches on, endless. I don't know where it's taking us. I don't know if we'll ever make it out, but I know one thing for sure. There's no turning back. The car is still moving. The engine's roar deafening in my ears as I slam my foot on the pedal, faster and faster, as though I can outrun what's happening, as though I can outrun my fate. But there's no escaping it. Not this time. The figure in the back seat remains silent now, but its presence is more oppressive than ever, pressing down on me like a physical weight. I don't dare look in the rearview mirror. I know it's there. I can feel its cold, empty gaze boring into the back of my skull. My hands are shaking as I grip the steering wheel, but the car doesn't stop. The fog grows thicker, swallowing the road, swallowing everything around me. The trees are now indistinguishable, fading into a ghostly blur of pale shapes. My mind is racing, trying to make sense of it, but everything is slipping away. The air is so thick with the stench of decay now that I gag, choking on it, my chest tightening with every breath I take. I can barely breathe, can't think, can't focus. I need to get out. I need to escape. Jason, Dawn's voice again. It's not her. I know it's not her. I know this voice. It's the thing that wears her face, the thing that's been following me since the beginning. But even knowing that doesn't stop my heart from skipping a beat when I hear it. Jason, you have to help me. You promised. I want to scream, to tell her, to stop, but my mouth goes dry. My throat closes up. I can't form words. My hands are stiff on the wheel, my whole body rigid with fear. And then the whispering starts again, louder this time, insistent. Help us, you have to help us, Jason. The voices are everywhere. They're in my head, they're in the air. They're coming from the mist, from the trees, from the very road beneath my tires. I can't escape them. I can't escape the feeling that I've been here before, that I've driven this road, this exact road, over and over again. And then I remember. I slam on the brakes, the car screeching to a halt, sending my body flying forward into the seatbelt. The world outside is spinning, the fog swirling violently around me. My heart is pounding in my chest as the realization hits me like a wave. I've been here before. I've been through this nightmare. I've lived this over and over again, in a loop I can't break. I've been driving this road, chasing the same thing, thinking that if I just kept going, kept driving, I could fix it. But I can't. I was never meant to escape. The figure in the back seat shifts. I don't dare look at it, but I can feel its presence growing stronger, as if it's feeding off my fear, as if it knows I've finally figured it out. Jason, it whispers, its voice slithering through the fog, curling around me like smoke. There's no way out. I close my eyes, my fists clenching the steering wheel until my nails dig into my palms. I don't want to look. I don't want to face it. But I have to. I have to know what's happening. I turn slowly, my breath shallow, my head spinning. Dawn's face is staring at me, but it's not Dawn anymore. Her eyes are hollow, empty. Her lips are twisted into a grotesque smile. It's not her. It's the thing that's wearing her skin, the thing that's been tormenting me. You shouldn't have come back, it says, its voice a cruel mockery of her tone. You don't belong here. I try to speak, but the words die in my throat. The figure leans forward, its face inches from mine, its eyes glowing with an unnatural, otherworldly light. The stench of rot fills the car, suffocating me. You can't outrun this, Jason, it says, its voice low and steady, like the ticking of a clock counting down. You've made your choice. There's no turning back now. I can feel the pressure building, the weight of the fog closing in around me. I feel it crawling into my chest, squeezing the air out of my lungs. It's everywhere. In my mind, in my body, in the car, in the very ground beneath me. The road itself feels like it's pulling me deeper into the abyss, and I realize that the road is never going to end. It's not a road at all. It's a trap, a never-ending loop of despair, pulling me back again and again until there's nothing left. And then I see it, a figure in the distance, a shadow moving through the fog. It's not the figure I've seen before, though. This one is different. It's more solid, more real. It's someone I know, someone I've been looking for. Dawn, but she's different now. Her eyes are wide with terror, her face pale, her mouth open in a silent scream. She's reaching for me, her hand outstretched, her body moving toward the car. But I can't reach her. The fog is swallowing her up, dragging her away, and I can't do anything to stop it. Dawn, I scream, my voice breaking. I'm sorry. The figure in the back seat interrupts me with a bone-chilling laugh, its voice cutting through my words. She's gone, Jason? I want to turn the car around. I want to escape, but the fog tightens around me. The road stretches on, endless, and the world outside the windows is fading into nothing. I know now, there's no choice left. This is where it ends. This is where it always ends. The thing in the back seat is smiling, its hollow eyes gleaming with satisfaction. The whispers return, louder now, deafening, overwhelming. Help us, help us, help us. The car moves forward, into the fog, into the unknown. There's no turning back. I don't know how long I've been driving. It feels like days, weeks, months, maybe even years. Time has lost all meaning here. The world outside the car window has turned into a never-ending blur of shadows and fog. The trees no longer recognizable, the road itself stretching out endlessly in front of me. I'm stuck. And the worst part is, I'm starting to believe I might never escape. The fog is thick now, so thick that it's pressing against the car like it's trying to crawl in through the windows. I can barely see anything outside, just the eerie glow of the headlights cutting through the dense white blanket that surrounds me. The air inside the car feels stale, heavy. Every breath I take fills my lungs with the smell of decay, a mix of rot and something I can't place, something worse than death. But the worst part is the silence. It's suffocating. For a while, I thought I could hear things in the distance, the sound of footsteps, a whisper on the wind, but now, nothing. No sound, no movement, just me, the car, and the road that never seems to end. The figure in the back seat hasn't spoken since the last time. It doesn't need to. I can feel its presence, suffocating, like a storm that's been hanging in the air for far too long. It watches me, its cold eyes never leaving me for a second. I can't shake the feeling that it's just waiting for me to break, for me to beg for mercy. But I won't. I can't. If I do, I know that'll be the moment I truly lose myself. I glance in the rearview mirror, and for a second, I think I see something. A figure, tall, pale, standing at the edge of the fog. But it's gone before I can focus on it. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm just losing my mind. The road twists and I follow it without thinking, my hands on the wheel, my foot pressing harder on the gas pedal. But the faster I drive, the faster the road stretches out in front of me, like it's never going to end. The fog never lifts, the air stays thick and oppressive, and the feeling of dread only grows. That's when I see it. Up ahead, there's a figure standing in the middle of the road, a silhouette, barely visible through the fog, but it's there. I slow the car down instinctively, my pulse racing as I try to make out the figure. It's a person. A woman, I think, but her features are obscured by the thick mist surrounding her. My heart skips a beat. It could be her. Dawn. I slam on the brakes and stop the car, the tires screeching against the wet road. The car lurches to a halt and I sit there, frozen. The figure doesn't move. She just stands there, her back turned to me, as though she's waiting for me to come closer. The urge to get out of the car is overwhelming, but I know it's a mistake. I can't trust anything here. Nothing is real. But something deep inside me, the part that's still human, the part that hasn't completely given in, urges me to go. I open the door. It creaks loudly, the sound echoing in the stillness, and I step out into the thick fog. The chill in the air bites at my skin, but I don't feel it. All I can focus on is the figure ahead of me, the figure that might be her. I take a hesitant step forward, and then another. My feet are sinking into the wet ground as though the earth itself is pulling me down, but I keep moving. I can't stop now, not when I'm so close. "Dawn?" I call out, my voice shaky, barely more than a whisper. She doesn't answer, but I think she heard me. Her body stiffens, like she's aware of my presence, like she knows I'm here. I take another step, and then another, until I'm just a few feet away from her. Her back is still turned to me, her long hair flowing like a dark curtain in the wind. But there's something wrong. The way her shoulders move is unnatural, stiff, like she's struggling to breathe. I reach out, trembling, my fingers brushing the edge of her coat. It's icy cold to the touch. "Dawn?" I say again, more desperate this time, my voice cracking. She doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't even breathe. And that's when I realize it. It's not her. It's never been her. The figure in front of me turns slowly, and my blood runs cold. Her face is pale, too pale, her eyes black voids with no light in them. Her mouth stretches wide, too wide, and the sound that comes out of it, is a guttural, raspy screech that rattles my bones. The stench of death is overwhelming now, choking me, suffocating me. "You shouldn't have come here," it hisses, its mouth opening impossibly wide. I stagger back, my breath coming in sharp gasps as the thing before me grins. It's not her. It's something else, something far worse. I turn and run. The fog seems to move with me, blocking my vision as though it's trying to swallow me whole. The sound of footsteps follows me, the thing behind me, it laughing, that same eerie laugh that makes my blood freeze in my veins. My heart is pounding in my chest, and my feet are slipping on the wet ground, but I keep running, my breath ragged and shallow. I can't stop. I can't look back. I don't know how long I've been running when I finally see the car again. It's still there, waiting for me, sitting in the middle of the road. I scramble back into it, slamming the door shut and locking it. I don't know if it will help, but I don't care. I need to get out of here. I start the engine, my hands shaking as I press down on the gas pedal. The road stretches out before me once again, endless and dark, the fog closing in. I can feel it. It's still behind me. And this time I know. There's no escaping it. There's no escaping them. I can feel it now. The car is no longer just a refuge from the fog. It's a prison. Each mile I drive feels like another layer of my mind is unraveling, and the weight of the thing in the back seat grows heavier with each passing minute. It's always there. It always has been. The engine hums like a lullaby, a soothing sound that should calm me, but it only reminds me of the world I've left behind, of the place I used to know, the place that no longer exists. Out here, on this endless stretch of highway, everything feels wrong. The car, the road, the fog, the figure, it in the back seat. It's all wrong. I glance in the rearview mirror again, my eyes darting to the shadowy figure that sits motionless, staring at me. I don't know how it moved. I don't know how it got in. I don't know how long it's been there. But I know one thing for sure. This thing, whatever it is, isn't human. It's never been human. I take my eyes off the road for just a second, and that's when I hear it. A soft tapping sound, almost like fingers drumming on the window, but wrong. The sound is hollow, empty, like something that shouldn't exist, trying to make itself heard. I don't look. I can't, but I know. It's there. It's always been there. I grip the steering wheel tighter, knuckles white, my breathing shallow. The fog is thicker now, the darkness pressing in around me like a suffocating embrace. The headlights cut through the mist, but they don't illuminate anything. They don't reveal anything. It's as if the fog itself is alive, swallowing up the light, keeping me in this never-ending night. Get out of the car. The voice is soft, barely a whisper, but it rings through my mind like a bell. It's the thing in the back seat, I'm sure of it. And it's speaking to me. No, it's not speaking, it's commanding. I don't dare look back. I don't dare listen. I push my foot down harder on the gas pedal, the car lurching forward. The road bends and twists, winding through the fog like a serpent, and I follow it without thinking. My mind is fogged too, clouded with fear, with confusion. I don't know if I'm driving towards something or if I'm just running away from something that's always been a part of me. The figure taps again, a rhythm, methodical, deliberate. Get out of the car. I feel a cold breath on the back of my neck. The temperature in the car drops, and I shiver, my body reacting before my mind can process. My heart starts to race, my pulse quickening. I don't know if I can take much more of this. The fear is becoming a constant ache, a weight I can't escape. You're not gonna make it. The voice is louder now, clearer, but it's not just a voice anymore. It's a presence, a force that invades my thoughts, twists my reality, makes my skin crawl. I slam my foot on the brake, and the car jerks to a stop. The world outside the windows is a wall of white fog, a void. I can't see anything. There's nothing here but the oppressive silence, the unnatural stillness that surrounds me. The thing in the back seat moves. I don't turn to look, but I know it's coming closer. I can feel it in the air, a shift in the atmosphere, like the weight of the world is pressing down on me. The temperature drops even further, and I can see my breath in the air, a fog of its own forming in the car. I hear the tapping again. Closer now. Louder. The thing is getting closer, its presence filling the space behind me, creeping toward me. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't move. And then the tapping stops. There's only silence. For a moment, I think it's gone, that it's all over. But I know better. I know that silence is just the calm before the storm. I reach for the door handle, my hand shaking, but I can't bring myself to open it. I can't face whatever is outside, whatever's waiting for me in the fog. The voice comes again. This time not from the back seat, but from the air itself. It fills the car, the space, my mind. You will never leave. The words are a promise, a threat, and they chill me to my core. I try to start the car again, my hands fumbling over the keys, but nothing happens. The engine sputters and dies. The car is completely still. I'm trapped in this never-ending road, this nightmare that keeps unfolding, 1 mile at a time. And then, as if on cue, the fog begins to swirl around the car, thickening, closing in. It's not just fog anymore. It's alive. It's moving. It's breathing. And I realize with horror that the road has stopped moving. It has stopped stretching out before me. It's just over. I'm not driving anymore. I'm not going anywhere. I'm stuck here, forever. The fog presses against the windows like it's trying to get inside, and the thing in the back seat is still there, waiting, watching. And now I understand the truth. This isn't a road. This is a trap, and there is no way out. It was supposed to be a quick, uneventful drive. My friend Jake and I were on our way home from a weekend trip to visit family. The sun had long since dipped below the horizon, leaving the highway bathed in the dull glow of streetlights. We were driving through the countryside, a route we'd taken countless times before. Nothing ever happened here. No accidents, no strange encounters. Just the steady hum of tires against asphalt and the occasional flicker of a distant farmhouse. Jake had been talking about some new project at work, but I barely heard him. My eyes were fixed on the road, and the quiet outside seemed to creep into the car, swallowing us whole. The engine buzzed steadily under the hood, and the only other sound was the radio playing low, the static almost louder than the music itself. I glanced at the clock on the dashboard, 1:38 a.m. We were both exhausted. But then again, when are you ever truly ready to sleep? Still, I knew we were close to home, just another hour or so, and the thought of crawling into my own bed was enough to keep me going. That's when I saw it. A set of headlights in my rearview mirror, closing in fast. At first, I figured it was another car passing us, just someone driving faster than us, nothing unusual. But when the headlights stayed locked in my mirror, I started to feel uneasy. I glanced over at Jake, who was still talking about work, oblivious to what was going on behind us. I didn't think much of it at first. There are plenty of impatient drivers on the road at night. Maybe it was someone who just wanted to get past us. But then the lights grew brighter. Closer. I pushed the accelerator a little harder, hoping to get ahead. The car in my rearview mirror followed suit, matching my speed. It was almost like it was mirroring me, inching closer with every second. My pulse quickened. The road was empty except for us. Why was this person tailgating me so aggressively? "Jake," I said, my voice quieter than I intended, "there's someone right on our tail." Jake looked up from his phone, his brow furrowing. "What do you mean? Are they really close?" I nodded, gripping the wheel a little tighter. Yeah, too close. I pushed the gas pedal harder, and the car sped up, but the headlights stayed with us, even as we reached 80 miles per hour. A tight knot formed in my stomach. This wasn't just someone wanting to pass. This was something else. I could feel my heart rate increasing as I looked at the road ahead. The highway stretched endlessly. No exits for miles, just flat, barren land on both sides. I looked back again, and the headlights were still there, inches from my rear bumper. Suddenly, the headlights blinked twice. It was almost like a signal. My stomach dropped. I glanced at Jake, his face now drawn with concern. "What's going on? Who the hell is this?" I didn't answer. My hands were sweating on the wheel, and all I could think about was getting away from whoever this was. I swerved into the next lane, hoping they'd back off, but the truck followed, matching my every move, relentless. I could feel my pulse in my throat. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just some annoyed driver, and then it happened. The truck's headlights flashed brightly, brighter than any normal car's lights, the kind of light that cuts through fog. And just like that, it was on us. The truck wasn't just tailing us anymore, it was chasing us. "Shit, shit, shit!" I yelled, my foot slamming on the gas pedal as I swerved again, desperately trying to put some distance between us and the truck. It wasn't working. It never worked. It just kept coming closer. I glanced at Jake again, his face now a ghostly shade of pale, and then I did what anyone would do in that situation. I floored it. The truck behind us revved its engine and came closer, its horn blaring. The highway was endless. The truck never slowed. And with every passing second, I realized one horrifying truth. This wasn't an accident. We were being chased, and whoever was driving that truck wasn't going to stop until they caught us. The road ahead was nothing but a long, dark stretch of asphalt. The headlights of the red truck behind us illuminated the night like two burning eyes. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the situation. The way it followed us so relentlessly. The way it seemed to know exactly what I was doing. "Jake, do you see this?" I asked, my voice shaking, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the rearview mirror. Jake wasn't answering. I glanced over at him, and his face was pale, his hand gripping the door handle like he was ready to jump out at any moment. He was staring out the side window, as if trying to pretend the truck didn't exist. "Jake?" I said again, more urgently. He blinked and looked at me, his eyes wide. "This isn't normal. What the hell is that thing?" I didn't have an answer. The red truck behind us was still closing the distance, its headlights flashing more erratically now, as if signaling us. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, pushing the car to its limits. The needle on the speedometer crept up to 95, then 100, but the truck was still there, still right behind us. No matter how fast I drove, it didn't matter. The truck stayed within inches of us, like a predator stalking its prey. I swerved to the left lane again, hoping to throw it off, but the truck mirrored my every move. It was as though it was reading my mind. Whatever I did, it did the same thing. I felt trapped. "Get off the highway," Jake said, his voice tight with fear. "Pull over, let's figure this out." I wasn't sure if he was being serious or just panicking. I knew we couldn't stop, we couldn't slow down. That truck, I had no idea what it was, but it wasn't just some random driver. It was something worse. Much worse. "No way," I replied, my voice hoarse. "We need to get away from it. There's no time to pull over." Jake looked at me, eyes wide. "You don't understand. That truck's been following us for miles now. It's not just a coincidence. That thing's after us." I could feel the panic rising in my chest. He was right. This wasn't normal. Something was wrong. Everything about the truck felt wrong. The way it never left our tail, how it seemed to know exactly where we were going, like it was playing some sick game. I glanced at the rearview mirror again. The truck's headlights were flashing again, this time in a rhythm that felt almost deliberate. Like it was toying with us, trying to break us down mentally. It was almost like it was saying, "I know you can't escape." A sharp burst of adrenaline surged through me. I couldn't let it get to me. I couldn't let this thing win. I slammed my foot harder on the accelerator, pushing the car to its maximum speed. The engine roared in protest, but I couldn't stop. Not now. The road in front of me stretched endlessly, the headlights of the truck blurring into a smear of red. The sound of the tires on the asphalt seemed to fade out as the world around me narrowed. All I could hear was the deafening roar of the truck behind us. It was like the truck had become part of the world, a monster that existed only in the dark spaces of this highway. Then, in the corner of my eye, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A figure, a shadow, standing by the side of the road, just off the shoulder. It wasn't just a person. It was too tall, too hunched over. It wasn't moving, just standing there, watching us. I whipped my head around, desperate to catch a better glimpse, but the shadow was gone. Just gone, like it never existed. But my heart was pounding in my chest, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was had been watching us. Watching the truck chase us. "Did you see that?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Jake didn't answer. He was looking ahead, his grip on the seat tighter than ever. I could see him shaking, the fear written all over his face. And then, without warning, the truck's headlights flashed bright again. But this time, something was different. It wasn't just blinding. The light, it was wrong. It was unnatural, like the truck was glowing. The red truck wasn't just chasing us anymore. It was catching up. The light seemed to pulse, getting brighter and more erratic with every second. My mind screamed at me to do something, but it felt like we were caught in some kind of terrible loop. No matter what I did, the truck was always there, always coming closer. "Jake, we're not getting away," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I looked at the road ahead. There was nothing, just a flat, desolate stretch of blacktop. And the truck? Getting closer. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles were starting to turn white. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest as the truck's headlights continued to grow brighter, practically blinding me. It was like the truck wasn't just chasing us, it was closing in on us with a deadly purpose, like a predator that had already tasted its prey and was now determined to finish the job. "Jake," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "What the hell is happening? This isn't real." But Jake didn't answer. His hands were pressed against the dashboard, his face twisted in terror as he stared out the window, watching the truck in absolute silence. I could see the sweat on his forehead, the way his lips trembled like he was on the verge of saying something, anything, but he couldn't find the words. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the rearview mirror. The red truck was there, right there, like a shadow that had been cast over our lives, following us with no intention of ever leaving. Its headlights pulsed, blinding in the reflection of the glass, and I could swear I could see figures inside it. Shapes moving, shadows of people, or something else. It was like the truck wasn't even a truck anymore. It was more like a vehicle possessed by something far worse than any human being could ever understand. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, pushing the car faster, but the truck stayed right behind us, keeping pace. It was almost like the faster I drove, the more it accelerated, matching every move I made. I swerved left, right, desperately trying to shake it, but the truck mirrored me, cutting me off with a terrifying precision. "There's no way we can outrun it," I said, more to myself than to Jake. "We need to stop, get off the road." Jake suddenly snapped, his voice shaky but frantic. "Stop? Are you insane? If we stop, it'll..." He cut himself off, his eyes wide with fear as he stared at the red truck, his breath ragged. I could see the panic in his eyes now, a stark reflection of my own fear. We were trapped. I was beginning to realize that there was no escape from this. Whatever it was that was after us, it wasn't just some random driver. It was something far worse. A deafening horn blared behind us, and I almost jerked the wheel off the road. The sound was so loud, so intrusive, that for a second, I thought the truck had somehow overtaken us. But when I looked in the rearview mirror again, it was still there, right on our tail. Its lights were now flashing erratically, as if the driver was trying to signal us, or maybe just torment us. I checked the speedometer. We were going well over 100 miles per hour now, and the truck didn't seem to care. It wasn't just tailing us anymore, it was actively hunting us. "Where's the next exit?" Jake asked suddenly, his voice cracking. He was looking around frantically, but the highway was just an endless stretch of blacktop with no signs of any nearby towns or exits. Just darkness. "There's nothing for miles," I said, the panic in my voice rising with every passing second. "We just have to keep going. Just..." I was cut off by another blinding flash of headlights, followed by a gut-wrenching screech of tires. The truck had swerved toward us, cutting us off and forcing me to slam the brakes. I almost lost control of the car, the back end fishtailing as I fought to keep it steady. I managed to get the car back under control, but when I looked ahead, my stomach dropped. The truck had somehow pulled ahead, blocking the road completely. It was as if it knew exactly what I was going to do. There was no escape. The truck's headlights were now fully engulfing our view, and the road ahead seemed to disappear into a wall of white light. I could barely see anything in front of us. All I could hear was the deafening roar of the truck's engine, drowning out everything else. The sound seemed to fill the car, echoing in my skull. I looked at Jake again, and his face was pale. He wasn't even looking at me anymore. He was staring at the dashboard, his hands shaking. It was like he had given up, like he knew we weren't going to survive this. Then I saw something that froze my blood in my veins. In the rearview mirror, the truck wasn't just a truck anymore. Its shape began to shift. The headlights flickered and dimmed, replaced by an eerie red glow that filled the entire space behind us. I couldn't see the truck's body anymore. It was like the truck had disappeared, leaving nothing but that sickening red light. I blinked, my heart pounding in my chest. When I looked back at the road ahead, the truck was gone. But the red glow lingered, like a shadow cast over us. We were still trapped. The engine roared again, but this time it wasn't the truck. It was something else. Something that sounded wrong. Something monstrous. And then I realized, the truck wasn't chasing us anymore. Whatever had been driving it was following us, and it was closer than ever. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. The road ahead was an empty void, swallowed by the thick, oppressive darkness. I couldn't shake the feeling that the truck, or whatever it was closing in on us, even though I couldn't see it. The eerie red glow still lingered, like a bloodshot eye watching us from the rearview mirror. My hands were slick with sweat as I gripped the steering wheel, my breath shallow and fast. Jake's voice broke through the suffocating silence. "What the hell is happening, man? Is this some kind of prank?" I could hear the tremor in his voice, but I couldn't answer him. How could I? Nothing about this made sense. Nothing about this felt real. The truck had disappeared, and now we were surrounded by this unnatural darkness, the only light coming from the lingering red glow that still illuminated the rearview mirror. It felt like we were being stalked by something that wasn't human. I couldn't help but glance into the side mirror. The darkness was thick, but I swore I saw shapes moving just outside the range of the light. Figures, human-like, but twisted. They were too quick to make out, too fleeting to get a good look at, but they were there, moving just beyond the edge of the road, hiding in the shadows. I shuddered, my heart racing. Jake, we're not alone. Jake was staring at the rearview mirror now too, his face pale as he too saw the shifting shadows outside. What are those things? I don't see them clearly. Are they people? No, I said, my voice thick with dread. No, they're not people. The air in the car was growing colder, and the chills seeped into my bones. I turned the heater up, but it did nothing to ease the creeping frost that seemed to fill the car. My breath fogged up the windshield as I struggled to focus on the road. The trees beside the highway looked like twisted silhouettes in the darkness, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The world around us felt alive, but not in a good way. It was as if something had awakened, something ancient and hungry, and we were right in its path. A crackling noise from the radio suddenly filled the car, static loud enough to drown out all other sounds. It was like the radio had come to life on its own, cutting through the silence with an eerie hiss. I reached out to turn it off, but as my fingers brushed the knob, a voice cut through the static. "Turn around," it whispered, too soft to make out clearly, but the message was unmistakable. "Did you hear that?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. Jake nodded, his face pale, his hands gripping the seat tightly. "I heard it. Who was that?" "I don't know," I muttered, my eyes scanning the darkness around us again. "But we need to get out of here. We need to turn around." I slammed the brakes, the car screeching to a halt. My heart was pounding in my throat as I gripped the wheel, staring out at the endless stretch of road behind us. There was nothing there, just the black void of the night. But that voice still echoed in my mind. It wasn't the radio, it was something else. Something that had been waiting for us. Jake was breathing heavily now, his face pale and drenched in sweat. What do we do now? We can't just sit here. I was about to say something, but then I saw it. The headlights. At first I thought I was seeing things, my mind playing tricks on me, maybe, but then it came into focus. A pair of headlights, far in the distance. They weren't red this time. They were white, blinding, and they were getting closer, too quickly. I felt a sharp spike of terror in my chest as I realized it was them. The truck was back. This time, though, it wasn't just chasing us. It was waiting for us. The headlights grew larger, filling the rearview mirror, the glow more intense than I'd ever seen. It was like a monster, its eyes searing into me, trapping us in its gaze. The voice from the radio came again, only this time it was louder, clearer. Turn around, or you'll never leave. I could feel my pulse in my ears, thundering in my skull. My instincts screamed at me to get out of there, to just go, but my body wouldn't move. It was like I was frozen in place, unable to escape this nightmare. I glanced at Jake, who was trembling in his seat, his eyes wide with fear. His voice cracked as he whispered, "What the hell is that thing? What's chasing us?" I wanted to tell him that I didn't know. I wanted to tell him it was just a bad dream. But I couldn't, because I knew. I knew that whatever this was, it wasn't going to stop until it had us. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, throwing the car into motion again. But this time the headlights behind us didn't fade. They followed us, closer, faster. It was like the truck had entered another dimension, its speed no longer bound by the laws of physics. The road ahead was no longer the same. It twisted and warped, as if reality itself was being distorted. The trees, once mere shadows, now loomed over the highway, their twisted branches reaching out like claws, scratching at the car. The blacktop seemed to stretch on forever, an endless tunnel of darkness that refused to end. And then, through the windshield, I saw it. The silhouette of something massive, standing at the edge of the road. It was a figure, tall, dark, and incomprehensible. Its shape was a blur, like it was barely there at all, but I could feel it. Watching us. It wasn't just standing there, it was waiting for us. My heart pounded in my chest as the figure seemed to step closer, its outline becoming more defined. But I didn't have time to process it. The truck was right there, right on top of us. I slammed the wheel to the side, trying to make a desperate escape, but it was too late. The headlights engulfed the car. The truck was everywhere now, its presence suffocating, the air thick with the weight of its hunger. And then, there was nothing. I don't know how long we were gone. Minutes? Hours? Time stopped making sense the moment the truck enveloped us. The lights were all I saw. They burned into my skull, blinding, searing, relentless. The world around us felt like it was crumbling, reality warping and distorting with every passing second. Every breath I took was like breathing in smoke, thick and suffocating. The car, my only lifeline, felt like a prison. The walls seemed to close in, the air growing heavier, denser. I could still hear Jake's panicked breathing beside me, his hands gripping the seat like he was trying to hold on to something real. But there was nothing real left. Why is it still following us? Jake finally gasped, his voice strained, filled with disbelief. He was shaking now, the tremors in his voice betraying the fear that had taken hold of him. "I don't know," I muttered, barely able to speak. My throat was dry, my eyes burning with exhaustion, but I kept my foot pressed firmly on the accelerator, my hands sweating as I gripped the steering wheel. Every inch of road was a nightmare. There was no escape, no way out. The truck was still behind us, its headlights brighter than ever, filling the rearview mirror with an unnatural glow that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of the night. But there was something else now. Something worse. The lights weren't just following us. They were closing in, growing larger, more suffocating. They weren't just attached to the truck anymore. They were part of it. The truck was an extension of them, of the darkness that seemed to bleed into the world around us. And then I heard it. The engine. It wasn't just roaring behind us anymore. It was inside the car, vibrating through the seats, the floor, the very bones in my body. It was like the truck was inside us, in our minds, in the air we breathed. I glanced at Jake and he was staring ahead, wide-eyed, his mouth agape. But he wasn't looking at the road. He wasn't looking at the headlights. His gaze was locked on something else. Something out of place. I followed his eyes. The trees. They were moving, not swaying in the wind, but moving, shifting, crawling toward us like they had a mind of their own. The shadows from the trees seemed to stretch and grow, creeping along the road, pulling themselves toward the car. The night felt alive, and not in a natural way. "Turn off the road," Jake whispered, his voice shaking. "It's too much. We have to get off this road. It's not real. None of this is real." I slammed the brakes, the car screeching to a halt, tires screeching against the pavement as the headlights from the truck drew closer, faster. But I didn't care anymore. I was willing to do anything to stop this nightmare. My hands were trembling, my mind slipping in and out of control as I turned the wheel and veered onto a narrow dirt path that cut through the trees. But as soon as the car left the main road, it was like we had entered another world. The trees closed in on us, blocking out the sky. The headlights from the truck didn't fade. They followed us, cutting through the darkness like blades, slicing through the trees as if they weren't even there. "God, it's everywhere," I heard Jake whisper, his voice broken. "We're not alone. We never were." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I tried to keep the car on the path, but the road was uneven, the trees pressing in on us from all sides. The shadows twisted in unnatural ways, warping and stretching like they were alive, like they were feeding off our fear. Suddenly, the headlights disappeared. For a split second, I felt a flicker of hope. But then, the world turned cold, and I realized I couldn't see anything in the dark anymore. The truck was gone, but so was the road. The trees had vanished, replaced by an endless expanse of blackness. It felt like we were floating in some endless void. And then the voice came again. It wasn't from the radio this time. It was in my head. I could feel it, wrapping around my thoughts, squeezing my mind like a vice. "You shouldn't have run. You can't escape." I froze. Jake didn't speak. He was staring straight ahead, his eyes wide, his body shaking uncontrollably. I could feel his fear radiating off of him. We weren't alone anymore. The darkness wasn't empty. It had filled with something else. The headlights came back, but this time they weren't behind us. They were in front of us. A wall of light, brighter than anything I had ever seen. It was blinding, suffocating. The truck was right there, standing still in the middle of the road, its engine growling like it was hungry. It wasn't chasing us anymore. It had us cornered. The air in the car thickened, suffocating, and I could feel the pressure building in my chest, my heartbeat accelerating. I couldn't breathe. The car was closing in on us, and I couldn't get out. I tried to slam the brakes again, but they didn't work. The truck wasn't just physical. It was something else, something supernatural, something that controlled everything. And then as the headlights grew to fill the windshield, I saw something in the front grille of the truck. A face. Not a human face. A twisted, monstrous face with hollow eyes and a twisted grin that stretched unnaturally wide. It was smiling at us. And then the truck lunged forward. I don't remember much after the truck lunged at us. Everything happened in a blur, a sickening, twisting blur of panic and terror. The headlights were all I could see, burning like two eyes of an ancient creature, devouring the very air between us and it. My foot slammed down on the gas pedal, instinct taking over. I was running. I was desperate. The car surged forward, but it felt like we were moving in slow motion. The world outside the windows was nothing but shadows, stretching and warping like a nightmare that refused to let go. I could hear the rumble of the truck, getting closer, louder. It wasn't behind us anymore. It was beside us. No matter how fast I drove, no matter how hard I pushed the pedal to the floor, the truck was right there, growing closer, its headlights casting an eerie glow through the glass. Jake was silent. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't focus on anything but the road ahead and the truck that wouldn't stop. The truck wasn't just following us now. It was surrounding us, closing in from every angle, as if the world itself was bending around its will. The engine roared louder, vibrating through the car like a deadly hum. It was alive. It was hunting us. I glanced at the rearview mirror. And then I saw it. The truck wasn't just a truck anymore. The headlights had morphed into something other. The darkness beyond the lights was swallowing the world, and for a moment, I thought I saw figures moving within the beams, shapes shifting like shadows, twisting into horrific forms that I couldn't comprehend. I wanted to scream, but my throat was too dry, my chest too tight. "Do you see that?" Jake's voice broke the silence, shaky, terrified. I didn't need to ask what he meant. He was talking about the same thing I had seen. The figures, the shadows, the faces that didn't belong in this world. I pushed the accelerator down harder, but it wasn't enough. The truck was us. The road was us. There was no escaping it. The world had been swallowed whole by whatever darkness this truck had come from, and it wasn't letting go. I was panicking. The sweat on my palms was making the wheels slippery. I didn't know if I was going to pass out or crash the car, but I couldn't stop. We couldn't stop. It was like the truck was a magnet, pulling us toward it, pulling us into its orbit, and the more I fought, the more I felt myself slipping under its power. I made a sharp turn. The tires screeched as they skidded on the gravel road. I saw nothing ahead but a blur of trees and endless night. There had to be an end to this. There had to be. But there was nothing. No escape. No road to freedom. Just endless darkness pressing in from all sides. I looked at the rearview mirror again, only this time it wasn't the truck that I saw. It was something worse. The darkness behind me had taken shape. It was a shadow, a figure, riding the truck, clinging to its front bumper, just beyond the reach of the headlights. A silhouette of something tall, humanoid, with limbs that stretched and twisted unnaturally. Its face was a blank, pale mask, eyes black as pitch, empty as the void. It stared at us, at me, with a gaze that felt like it was peeling back my very soul. "Go faster!" Jake screamed. "It's right there! It's right there! We're not alone!" I didn't need him to tell me that. I could feel it, in every bone of my body. The figure was real, and it was coming for us. I glanced ahead. There was a clearing up ahead, a break in the trees. I pushed the car toward it, heart pounding, knowing that it wouldn't make a difference. The figure was still there, keeping pace with us. There was no place to hide, no place to run, but something in me refused to give up. Something inside told me to fight. And so I did. I swerved off the road into the clearing, the wheels biting into the soft earth. The truck still on our tail. I could hear the screeching of the tires, the growl of the engine, the hunger in the air. There was no escape, no place to go, but I had to try. And then the ground shifted beneath us. The car hit something. A bump, a strange dip in the earth, and the world tilted. The headlights of the truck loomed over us like a predator closing in on its prey. The car spun out of control, the tires screeching, the world tilting at an impossible angle. I tried to fight it. I tried to steer, to regain control, but it was too late. We were spinning, falling, and all I could do was scream. The truck's lights filled the windshield once again, blinding me, and then the car crashed. I was just trying to get home. It was late, almost midnight, and I was driving through the middle of nowhere. The kind of place where the road stretches for miles without a single sign of civilization, and the only thing keeping me awake was the hum of the tires and the occasional flicker of my headlights slicing through the darkness. I had been on the road for hours, but it felt like I hadn't moved at all. I had taken this route hundreds of times before, and nothing had ever seemed out of the ordinary. But tonight was different. I wasn't even sure how it happened, honestly. One minute I was driving down a familiar stretch of highway, my GPS guiding me as usual, and the next, well, I was somewhere I couldn't recognize. It started with the road. It didn't look right. The pavement was cracked and uneven, a stark contrast to the smooth highways I was used to. There were no streetlights, no signs, just an endless stretch of black asphalt disappearing into the night. I looked down at my GPS. Something was off. I had been following the same route for hours, yet my location on the map didn't seem to match anything I had seen before. The road was winding in odd directions, looping back on itself, as if the map didn't even know where I was. I slowed down, trying to make sense of it. Maybe I had missed an exit or made a wrong turn, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pulled deeper into some kind of, trap? It didn't make sense, but the longer I drove, the more it felt like I wasn't alone. I looked out the window, half expecting to see someone standing by the side of the road, but there was nothing. Just the same endless stretch of trees and darkness. But then, something caught my eye. A sign. Well, it wasn't exactly a sign, more like a wooden post with a faded plaque nailed to it. I couldn't make out the words, but it was the only thing that seemed out of place in this desolate stretch of road. Curiosity took over, and I pulled over to get a closer look. I stepped out of the car and immediately regretted it. The air was thick with an oppressive stillness, the kind of silence that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath. It was as if nature itself had decided to stop making noise. No insects, no wind, just a heavy, suffocating quiet that hung in the air. I approached the post cautiously, squinting at the plaque. The words were barely legible, but I could make out a few. It read, "End of the road, you can't turn back." I laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of joke or local oddity, but the laughter quickly faded as I stared at the words. The more I looked at them, the more they seemed wrong. There was something about it that felt unnatural, like a warning, not a quirky sign. I turned around, looking back at my car, and that's when I saw it. The fog. It wasn't there before, I swear. But now it was rolling in from the woods, thick and dense, swallowing everything in its path. It moved fast, almost as if it had a life of its own. My heart began to race. I hurried back to my car, slammed the door shut, and locked it. The fog was closing in on me now, surrounding my car like a suffocating blanket. I was breathing too fast, panic creeping in. I turned the engine over and pressed the gas pedal, eager to get away from whatever this was. But the road ahead seemed to stretch endlessly. No exits, no signs of civilization. Just more of the same. The fog, the darkness, and that unsettling sense of something being wrong. I glanced in the rearview mirror. The sign was gone. In its place was just more fog, thicker than ever. My breath fogged up the windshield as I drove faster, trying to outrun whatever it was that was chasing me. But the road never ended. It never turned. It was just the same unchanging stretch of black asphalt, and I was getting deeper into it. That's when I heard it. A tapping sound, soft at first, like something knocking on the windows. I froze, my eyes darting around the car. I turned to the passenger seat, where I thought I had seen something out of the corner of my eye. But nothing was there. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. It was coming from outside the car, but I couldn't see anything through the fog. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to push the car faster, but the fog seemed to follow me. The road never changed. The tapping never stopped. And then I saw something. A figure. At first I thought it was just a shadow, some trick of the fog. But as I drove closer, I realized it was a person. Standing right in the middle of the road, motionless, just watching me. I slammed the brakes, heart pounding in my chest, but my car kept sliding toward them, as if the road itself was pulling me forward. The figure didn't move, it just stood there, its face obscured by the mist, its form barely visible in the thick fog. I tried to swerve, but the car wouldn't respond. It was like I was trapped, caught in some kind of loop. The figure raised one hand slowly, pointing directly at me, and that's when I realized something truly terrifying. The road had no end. I wasn't on my way home anymore. I was never going to leave. I wish I could tell you that I woke up and it was all just a nightmare, that I was stuck in some bad dream, and all I had to do was pinch myself to wake up. But I didn't. I'm still driving, still trapped. I don't know how much time has passed since I saw that figure in the fog. It feels like hours, days, but my phone's dead, and the GPS won't load any new data. I keep expecting to see the road change, to see something familiar, anything that will tell me I'm getting closer to home. But all I get is more of the same, the endless, unbroken stretch of black asphalt. I don't know why I'm still driving. I can't explain it. Every instinct tells me to stop, to turn around, but I can't. It's like the road won't let me. The more I try to escape, the more it pulls me in. The fog has thickened since I first saw that figure. It presses against my car, trying to seep inside, like it's alive, like it's waiting for something. The air in the car is suffocating, stale, and I can barely breathe. I keep wiping the condensation off the windows, hoping for a glimpse of something, anything, but all I see is the same grayish-white mist that surrounds me, as though the world has been swallowed by the fog. I glance at the rearview mirror. The road behind me is obscured by the mist. I can't see the figure anymore. It's like it never existed, but I know it did. I saw it, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm not alone out here. The silence is maddening. I can't remember the last time I heard anything. No animals, no wind, no sound of tires on gravel. The only noise is the hum of my engine and the occasional creak of the car, like it's tired of moving. I don't know what's keeping it going, but I can't stop. I don't even know if I can stop. Every time I think I'm seeing the end of the road, it just keeps going, winding and bending in ways that don't make sense. There should be exits, there should be towns, there should be something, but there's nothing. Not even a single house, no lights, no cars, just fog. Endless fog. I try to distract myself, focusing on the road, the tires on the asphalt, but my eyes keep straying to the passenger seat. The fog presses against the windows like it's trying to claw its way in, and I can't help but look at the empty space next to me. I don't know why, but it feels like I'm not alone. I keep thinking I see someone in the corner of my eye, a shadow, or maybe a reflection. But when I turn, there's nothing there. I've checked the back seat at least a dozen times now. Empty. But it doesn't stop me from checking again. And then it happens again. The tapping. I freeze, my foot slamming down on the brakes as my heart leaps into my throat. It's coming from the passenger window this time, tapping gently but deliberately as if someone is knocking. No. Something is knocking. I look to the side, but I can't see anything. The fog is too thick, too close. I can't see beyond the glass. I don't know what to do. I want to scream, I want to run, but my body's frozen. The tapping stops, and for a moment everything goes still. I hold my breath, waiting for something to happen. My pulse pounds in my ears. The tapping starts again, louder now, more urgent. I can't take it anymore. I throw open the door and leap out of the car, heart racing, adrenaline flooding my veins. The air is cold, too cold, like the fog is freezing me from the inside out. My feet slip on the wet pavement, but I don't care. I have to get away. I have to run. I look around, expecting to see someone, or maybe a group of people, standing in the fog, but there's nothing. Just the same featureless mist. No cars, no signs of life. The road stretches ahead of me, but it feels like it's closing in, narrowing with every step I take. I look behind me, expecting the car to be there, to see something familiar, but it's gone. The car is gone. It's not there anymore. I don't know how long I've been running. It's impossible to tell. The fog distorts everything. The road looks different now. It feels different, like it's shifting beneath my feet. I turn around, but the car is nowhere to be seen. It's like it's vanished. My breath comes in short gasps, my legs aching from the sudden sprint. I stop, standing still in the middle of the road. There's nothing around me but fog. And that feeling. That overwhelming, suffocating feeling that something is waiting, watching. I hear something in the distance. A low, rumbling sound. It's too far away to make out, but it's unmistakable. The sound of tires, a car. I look in every direction, trying to find the source of the noise, but there's nothing, just fog. The sound is getting louder now, closer. My heart races, my eyes darting back and forth, searching for the car. The road is silent again. I don't know where the sound went. I look down at my feet. The pavement beneath me is cracked, old and uneven, like the road is falling apart. And then I realize something that makes my stomach turn. The fog isn't just in the air, it's on the ground too. It's pulling me in. I try to take a step back, but my feet feel like they're sinking, as if the road itself is dragging me down. Panic floods my chest. My legs feel heavy. I can't move. The fog is rising higher now, up to my knees, then my waist. I hear the car again, closer, louder, but it's still nowhere to be seen. I scream, but the sound is swallowed up by the fog, swallowed up by the silence. And I'm stuck. I can't leave. I don't know how long I've been standing there, but the feeling of being watched is growing stronger by the second. It's like the fog is no longer just an environmental factor. It's alive. It presses against me, surrounding me, suffocating me. I can hear the faint whirring of a vehicle in the distance again, but I can't see anything, not even the faintest silhouette. Every time I try to move, the fog seems to grab at me, pulling me back, as if it doesn't want me to go anywhere. My feet sink deeper into the pavement, the weight of it pulling me down. I don't know if it's my fear or the fog, but I feel like I'm becoming part of it, swallowed whole by this place that's so utterly, eerily silent. And then, I hear it. The sound of tires. Louder this time. It's not far away anymore. It's so close, it's almost deafening, yet I still can't see a thing. The fog is too thick. But I can feel the vibrations through the ground, feel the rumble of whatever's out there getting closer, faster. My heart starts to race as panic sets in, and I turn in every direction, looking for any sign of life, any car, any movement. Nothing. It's like the world has been frozen in time. I try moving again, this time with more force, my legs aching as I fight the unseen grip of the fog. My breath comes in ragged gasps. I can't just stay here. I can't just let this thing catch me. My eyes frantically dart around, but all I see is gray. My hands shake as I try to push forward, but the ground beneath me is starting to crack. The concrete feels as if it's eroding, falling apart beneath me. I hear the rumbling again, louder now, like it's right behind me. I turn around and finally, I see it. The truck. A massive, old vehicle, its headlights dim in the fog, but glaring enough to make the world around me shudder. The front of the truck looks almost monstrous, as if it's something not entirely human. There are no visible signs of a driver. There's just this looming presence, moving toward me at a steady pace, gaining on me with every second. My feet seem to freeze to the ground, and my breath comes in short bursts. It stops. The engine rumbles, idling, and then the air goes dead silent. I don't know how to explain it, but for the first time since I've been on this road, the silence feels oppressive. The fog thickens, suffocating me, and I can't even hear the sound of my own heartbeat. I start to feel dizzy. The world tilts, as if gravity itself is shifting, warping. My vision blurs, and I grip my head as the nausea swells. I close my eyes for a moment, trying to focus, trying to stay grounded. When I open them again, the truck is gone. I don't know how to explain it, but it just vanished. One moment, it was there, the massive beast of metal and headlights. The next, nothing. No sign of it. The road is silent once more. The fog is as thick as ever, but there's no truck. I glance around frantically, trying to make sense of what just happened. Did I imagine it? Did I somehow hallucinate? But I don't feel insane. I feel trapped. The rumble of the truck is gone, but the feeling of dread is still here, crawling up my spine like 1,000 icy fingers. I want to scream, I want to run, but I'm paralyzed. Every instinct tells me to move, but I can't. I can barely breathe. The road in front of me is just more fog, endless and void of anything familiar. Then, I hear it again. A low growl, almost like the engine of the truck, only this time it's closer. Much closer. My pulse spikes, my body frozen in place. The sound grows louder, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. The air grows thicker. I can feel the vibrations beneath my feet, the ground itself shaking with the force of the sound. I try to look around, but the fog is too thick. I can't see a damn thing. My hands shake as I reach for my phone, but it's still dead. The battery drained hours ago. I'm alone. Trapped. Suddenly I hear a voice. It's faint at first, like a whisper, but it's there. A low, guttural whisper, coming from somewhere in the fog. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound human. "You're not leaving," it says. I freeze. The words hit me like a slap to the face. A chill runs through my entire body. My hands going clammy. The voice isn't just in my head, it's real. It's here. I don't know what to do, but I know one thing. I have to get out of here. I have to get away from whatever this thing is, whatever this road is. But as I turn, as I try to take a step toward the road that was supposed to lead me home, I realize something terrifying. The fog is closing in around me. It's coming for me, and I don't know how to escape. I try to run, but it feels like I'm moving through water. Every step is sluggish, my legs are heavy, and my feet drag against the road as if the pavement itself is pulling me back. The fog, thick as smoke, wraps around me, pressing in on all sides. I can't see anything except for that same endless gray. It's like the world has shrunk down to this narrow strip of road, and there's no way out. I glance behind me, half expecting to see the truck again, but all I see is the fog. The growl I heard earlier is gone. But I can still feel it, something out there, watching, waiting. The oppressive silence is more suffocating than ever, and I start to feel like I'm suffocating in my own skin. It's as if the air itself is too thick to breathe. I keep moving forward. I don't know why, but I just can't stop. It's like there's a force pulling me, urging me to keep walking, to keep running. But from what? What's out here? Suddenly, I hear it again. The rumble. The engine. It's distant at first, but it's growing louder. My heart jumps into my throat, and I whip around, my eyes scanning the fog for any sign of movement. The rumbling grows louder, faster, closer. I start running again, faster this time, trying to escape the sound, but the ground beneath me shifts. I stumble, my foot catching on something I can't see. I nearly fall, but I catch myself on the cracked asphalt, my breath coming in sharp gasps. I look up, and there it is, the truck. It's not far behind me this time. The headlights cut through the fog, and I can feel the heat from the engine, even though it's still too far away to touch, but I can hear it. The low growl of the truck's engine, a constant menacing hum that vibrates in my chest. The truck's presence is like a shadow, a specter that haunts me, never getting closer, but always there, just behind me. I keep running, my legs burning with exhaustion, but my body won't stop. The fog thickens, and with it comes a feeling of disorientation, like the world is warping around me. I try to focus, but the road is stretching on forever, no end in sight. It's like a maze, and I'm trapped in it. The fog swirls around me in thick tendrils, obscuring everything but the road ahead. My steps echo in the silence, the only sound other than the distant rumbling of the truck. But no matter how far I run, I never seem to get any closer to the end. The road just keeps going, stretching out in front of me like an endless ribbon. And then I hear it. A voice. A low, guttural growl. It's not the engine this time. This voice is human, or at least it sounds like it. It's distorted, like it's coming from far away, from some deep, dark place I can't understand. "You're not getting away," it whispers. The voice sends a shiver down my spine, and I freeze. For a moment, I feel like I'm not alone on this road anymore. It's as if something has been walking beside me the whole time, watching, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. I turn to look, but I can't see anything. The road ahead is still the same, an endless stretch of pavement disappearing into the fog. The truck's rumbling is louder now, so loud that it drowns out everything else. I know it's close, I can feel it, but there's nowhere to go. I stop running. I can't keep running. I'm exhausted, my legs giving out beneath me. I drop to my knees, gasping for air. My head is spinning, my vision blurring, and for a moment, I wonder if this is it, if I'm never going to leave this place. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the rumbling stops. Everything goes quiet. The fog feels heavier than ever, as if it's pressing down on me. I try to stand up, but my body won't cooperate. I can't move. The cold from the fog sinks into my bones, and the world around me feels distant, like I'm slipping out of reality. But then a voice speaks again. This time it's clear. "You can't leave," it says. The words so sharp they feel like they're cutting through my chest. I look around frantically, but I still can't see anything. There's nothing here. The road, the fog, the truck, all of it is gone. I'm alone. Except I'm not. The feeling of being watched is suffocating, and I know without a doubt that something is out there, lurking in the fog. And whatever it is, it's not going to let me go. The road isn't just a road, it's a trap. And now I'm part of it. The silence is deafening. I try to push myself to my feet, my legs shaking under me like they might give out at any moment. The air feels thick, like it's made of some otherworldly substance, pressing in on my chest. I force myself to look around, but all I see is the fog, the never-ending stretch of gray that wraps around me like a suffocating blanket. I'm trapped. The words echo in my head like some sort of twisted mantra, looping over and over again. I'm trapped. There's no way out. The truck, the road, the fog, none of it feels real, but it's all I have. I can't escape it. I can't even escape my thoughts. That's when I feel it. The coldness in the air shifting. It's subtle at first, like a breeze, but it's not coming from any direction I can identify. It's all around me, creeping into my bones, making every inch of my skin feel like it's being touched by something unseen. I start walking again. I don't know why. It's like I'm compelled to keep moving, even though every part of me wants to curl up and just wait. Wait for what, though? I don't know. I don't know if I'm waiting for something, or if I'm being led somewhere. And then I hear it, the sound of footsteps behind me. Soft, uneven, but unmistakably close. I spin around, but there's nothing. Just fog. Just the empty stretch of road that keeps going on and on. I start walking faster, my heart pounding in my chest. My breathing is ragged. I want to shout, to scream for help, but my voice feels thick, like it's stuck in my throat. As if whatever is out there is trying to keep me silent. The footsteps behind me are getting louder, closer. But every time I turn around, there's nothing. I'm losing my mind. I have to be. This can't be real. There's no way this is real. I'm hallucinating. I'm just trapped in my own head. But then I hear it again, clearer this time. A voice, distorted and broken, like it's coming from somewhere deep inside the fog. It's not a whisper, it's a growl. Low, guttural, and it makes my blood freeze in my veins. You shouldn't have come here. I stop dead in my tracks. The words hang in the air like a shadow, and I can't breathe. My heart slams against my rib cage. I have to get away. I have to run, but my body feels frozen in place. It's as though the very air is holding me, keeping me here. I look around again, and I swear I see something shift in the fog. A shape, barely visible, just on the edge of my vision. I blink, but it's gone. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it's the fog playing tricks on me, but I can't shake the feeling that it's real, that something is watching me. And then I hear it again, louder this time. The voice is almost a growl now, more menacing than before, but it sounds like it's coming from all around me. I can't pinpoint the source. You're never leaving. The words are cold, final. The weight of them presses down on me like a physical force. I try to take a step forward, but my feet feel like they're glued to the road. I can't move, I can't breathe, I can't think. It's as if the entire world has conspired to trap me here. A sudden gust of wind rushes past me, chilling me to the bone. The fog shifts again, swirling around in strange, unnatural patterns. My skin prickles. I can feel it now. Something is out there, just beyond the mist. Something huge, something ancient. And then I see it. A shape, a figure. Not quite human, but not entirely. Not entirely anything. It's a distortion in the fog, something that shifts and rides like a shadow, but darker, sharper. It doesn't have a face, it doesn't have a body. It's just a presence. I'm not alone. I can feel its eyes on me, even though I can't see them. I know it's watching me. I know it's waiting for me to make a move. Every part of me screams to run, but my legs won't obey. I'm frozen. The figure starts moving toward me, slow at first, as though savoring my fear. And then, just like that, it's gone. Vanished. Like it was never there. But I know it's still out there. I don't know how much longer I can keep walking. The road never ends. The fog never clears. The figure, the presence, it's all real. And I'm beginning to think that no one has ever truly left this road. I'm not just lost anymore. I'm stuck. Forever. It was supposed to be a quick stop. A bathroom break, a stretch of the legs, maybe a cup of coffee before getting back on the road. But nothing was ever that simple. Not out here, not on the side of this desolate highway, in the middle of nowhere. I had been driving for hours, the monotonous hum of the tires on the asphalt lulling me into a daze. The clock on my dashboard read 2:37 a.m. My eyes were heavy, my body aching from the long stretch of road behind me. The sign for the rest stop had appeared out of nowhere, just as the fatigue was beginning to pull at my senses. I decided to pull over and take a break. The rest stop itself was eerily quiet, lit only by the dull glow of a few scattered lights that flickered every now and then, casting long, crooked shadows across the cracked pavement. There were a few cars parked around, but not many. It didn't seem like a place where travelers would linger. I parked near the edge of the lot, away from the few other cars, hoping for some solitude. I left the engine running, the low rumble of it vibrating through my bones as I stepped out. The cold air bit at my skin, the kind of chill that sinks deep into your joints. My breath formed clouds in the night air, and I wrapped my jacket tighter around myself as I walked toward the restrooms. The building was small, an old, rundown structure with peeling paint and a faint smell of something metallic in the air. I pulled the door open, the rusty hinges creaking in protest, and stepped inside. It was just as I expected, dimly lit, empty except for the lone sink and a few cracked mirrors. I took a quick look at myself. My reflection was pale, exhausted, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. The reflection seemed off. Something about it didn't sit right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I shook my head, trying to push away the feeling. It was just the isolation, I told myself. Nothing more. As I turned to leave, I heard it. A faint whisper. Soft, like a breath against the wind. It came from outside, somewhere in the dark parking lot. I froze. I looked around, half expecting to see someone standing in the doorway, but the bathroom was empty. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and the whisper came again. This time louder, more distinct. "Don't open the window." I turned, my heart racing. The words seemed to hang in the air, an icy chill that made the room feel smaller, suffocating. My first instinct was to chalk it up to my imagination, to dismiss it as the wind or the creak of the old building settling. But something about it felt too real, too intentional. I stepped cautiously toward the door, peering through the small window in the corner of the restroom. The parking lot stretched out in front of me, the shadows growing longer as the lights flickered overhead. The cars that were there earlier were now gone, and the lot was eerily empty. Then I saw it, a figure. Not in the lot, but just outside, near the far edge of the rest stop. A shape, cloaked in shadow, standing unnaturally still. I couldn't make out any features, just the outline of a person, or something pretending to be human. My breath caught in my throat as I squinted to get a better look. The figure turned slightly, and I felt my heart drop to my stomach. I swear, I saw its eyes. Eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness, 2 pinpricks of light in the void. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure was gone. I stepped back from the window, my pulse pounding in my ears. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog of panic creeping into my thoughts. It had to be a trick of the light, a hallucination brought on by fatigue. But something inside me whispered that it wasn't. I took a deep breath and glanced toward the door. Maybe it was time to leave. Maybe I had stayed too long. But then, just as I reached for the handle, I heard it again, this time louder, clearer, more desperate. "Don't open the window, it's not safe." I froze. My fingers hovered over the door handle, the cold metal sending a shock through me. I wanted to run, to lock myself in the car and drive away, never looking back. But something held me there, as though the very act of leaving would seal my fate. And that's when I heard it, the soft tapping against the window. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the tapping grew faster, more urgent, like someone was knocking. I couldn't bring myself to look. I was frozen, rooted to the spot, too terrified to move. Knock. Knock. Then, silence. But the unease lingered. Something wasn't right. And that's when I heard the voice again, this time from just outside the bathroom door. "You shouldn't have stayed." I turned, my eyes wide with fear. The door was still closed, but the whisper came from right behind it, as if someone was standing on the other side. I wasn't alone. And I wasn't safe. I don't know what possessed me to open the door. Maybe it was the panic, the sudden need to do something, anything, to break the suffocating silence. Maybe it was the hope that whatever I thought I'd heard was just my mind playing tricks on me. I reached for the handle, my hand trembling so violently that I almost pulled away. My heartbeat was deafening in my ears, pounding in sync with the cold sweat that had begun to creep down my back. I couldn't stay locked in that restroom forever. I had to know what was out there, even if it meant facing something far worse than I could ever imagine. With a deep breath, I yanked the door open. Nothing. For a moment, the empty hallway stretched before me, dimly lit by a flickering bulb that hummed above. The silence was unnerving, too quiet, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. It was like the whole world had stopped, like there was nothing left but me and whatever lurked in the shadows. I stepped into the hallway, my shoes clicking softly on the cracked tiles. There was no one around, just the faint smell of old bleach and stale air. I hesitated, glancing toward the small lobby area that led to the vending machines. The room was empty, the overhead lights casting eerie pools of light across the worn furniture. Then I heard it again. That whisper, soft, yet unmistakable. "You shouldn't have come outside." It sent a jolt of cold fear through my veins. My breath caught in my throat, and I stood frozen in place, straining my ears. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, as though it were wrapped around me, seeping into my mind. But there was no one there. I turned around quickly, my eyes scanning every inch of the hallway, half expecting someone to step out of the shadows, but no one did. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and I took another cautious step toward the lobby. And then I saw them. 2 eyes. They weren't human. They couldn't be. I froze in place, my entire body locking up as I stared at the glinting reflection of something far too unnatural. The eyes were glowing in the dark. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but the eyes stayed there, blinking slowly, almost lazily, like a predator watching its prey from the shadows. The eyes were not in the hallway with me. They were in the corner of the lobby, hidden behind one of the vending machines, barely visible but unmistakably there. They were watching me, following my every move. A chill ran through me, and I instinctively stepped backward. But the eyes didn't move. They stayed fixed on me, their glow intensifying with each breath I took. It was as though they were calling me, pulling me toward them with an invisible force. and the urge to run was replaced with an overwhelming curiosity. I wanted to know what they were. I wanted to see if they were real, even though everything inside me screamed to turn around and leave. I took a tentative step forward, and that's when the silence was broken. A low growl rumbled from the darkness, deep, guttural, and unmistakably animalistic. It echoed off the walls, vibrating the air around me. My heart leaped into my throat as the growl grew louder, sharper. It wasn't just a sound anymore, it was a presence. Then, as though the growl had been a signal, the eyes moved. Slowly, deliberately, they didn't blink, didn't shift in any way that made sense for a living creature. They just slid across the shadows, one moment hidden behind the vending machine, the next right in the middle of the hallway, inches from me. The creature, or whatever it was, wasn't moving like anything I had ever seen. It was fast, too fast for my brain to process. It was like the darkness itself was shifting, bending, forming into something that was never meant to be seen. The growl rumbled again, louder this time, and I could feel my legs begin to shake beneath me. The air felt thick with something I couldn't place, like the entire rest stop had been suffocated by an unseen presence. I had to get out. I had to leave before whatever that thing was decided to make me its prey. But my legs wouldn't move. The fear had rooted me in place, paralyzed me with its icy grip. Then, through the darkness, the eyes blinked, and I heard it again. The whisper, closer this time, more urgent, like it was trying to warn me. It sees you, it wants you. In that moment, I understood. The eyes weren't just watching me, they were waiting. I stumbled backward, my mind racing as I fumbled for the door, my fingers slick with sweat. The growl turned into something else now, a sound that wasn't quite an animal noise, more like something trying to speak, but the words were distorted and human. Run. Run while you still can. I yanked the door open and bolted back into the restroom, slamming it behind me. My heart was hammering in my chest as I pressed my back against the cool, cracked tiles. I knew that I couldn't stay there forever, that whatever I had seen outside wasn't going to go away just because I shut the door. But for the first time since I'd arrived, I was grateful for the silence. It was the only thing keeping me sane. I don't know how long I sat there, paralyzed in that small, dimly lit room, but I knew one thing for sure. Whatever I had encountered in that lobby wasn't a normal creature. It was something far worse. Something that wasn't bound by the rules of this world. And it wanted me. I wasn't safe. Not here. Not anywhere. And it was only a matter of time before it found me again. I don't know how long I was in there. Minutes? Hours? Time had lost all meaning. The air in the restroom felt heavy, suffocating. It was as if the walls themselves were closing in on me, pushing me to the edge of my sanity. My hands shook uncontrollably as I sat huddled on the floor, trying to hold on to the fragile thread of rationality that was slipping through my fingers. Every creak of the building, every shift in the wind outside, felt like a prelude to something worse. The silence was deafening, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. The thought of stepping out there, into the darkness, knowing that something was lurking just beyond the door, it paralyzed me with terror. Then came the knock. It was faint at first, barely a tap, so soft I almost imagined it. But then it came again, louder this time, 3 quick knocks, like someone or something was desperate to get in. My breath caught in my throat and my pulse skyrocketed. I couldn't move, I didn't know what to do. My mind raced, my heart pounding like it was going to burst from my chest. Who was out there? Was it the thing with the glowing eyes? Had it followed me inside? I pressed my back against the door, the wood cold against my skin, and listened intently. My heart was in my throat, my stomach twisted in knots. Knock, knock, knock. It wasn't just the sound anymore. It was a rhythm, a pattern, almost like a message. My mind screamed at me to do something, anything, tear myself away from that door. The knock continued, persistent, and I was terrified that if I didn't answer, whatever was on the other side would break through. Please, please don't open it, a voice whispered in the back of my mind. It sounded like my own, but twisted, distorted. I wanted to listen. I needed to listen, but I couldn't help myself. The curiosity gnawed at me, and the fear, it was unbearable. The knock stopped abruptly, and for a moment I thought it might be over. The silence returned, more oppressive than ever. But then I heard something else. A voice. A soft, raspy whisper, coming from just outside the door. Let me in. I froze. The voice sounded wrong. It didn't belong to any human I'd ever heard. It was guttural, like something that had crawled out of the darkest pits of the earth. My body trembled with fear, but I couldn't stop myself from speaking. Who's there? My voice barely broke the silence, cracking with fear. The whisper came again, this time more urgent, more desperate. Let me in. I'm not what you think. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to scream, to beg, to call for help, but I was completely alone. I was trapped. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Don't open the door, the voice in my head urged again, but I couldn't trust myself anymore. I couldn't trust my own thoughts. The voice outside was too real, too close. Knock, knock, knock. It came again, harder this time. The force of the knock rattled the door. I jumped back, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The whole room felt like it was vibrating, as if the walls themselves were shaking with the force of the thing outside. I stepped forward, my hand trembling as I reached for the door handle. My body screamed at me to stop, to run, to do anything but open that door, but I couldn't stop. I was drawn to it. I needed to know. I needed to see if the thing was still there. I turned the handle. The door creaked open, just a crack. The dim light from the hallway filtered through, casting long shadows across the floor. I peered into the darkness, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, and then I saw it. A face. It wasn't human. It wasn't anything I could describe. It was a mask, a grotesque imitation of something once human, its skin pale and stretched too thin over the bones. Its eyes, those same glowing eyes, were staring at me, wide and unblinking, as though it could see straight through to my soul. I stumbled back, the door slamming shut behind me, trapping me inside again. My heart was racing, my entire body frozen in terror. I pressed my hands against the walls, trying to steady myself, but it was no use. That thing, it was real. And it was out there. I wanted to scream, but the words caught in my throat. I was alone. There was no one to help me, no one who could hear me. And then the whisper came again, but this time it was different. It wasn't asking anymore. It wasn't pleading. It was laughing. A low, hollow laugh that echoed in my mind, filling every corner of the room with an icy dread. You can't hide from me, it said, its voice seeping into my thoughts. I'm always watching. I pressed my hands to my ears, trying to block it out, but it was no use. The voice was inside me now, inside my head. I couldn't escape it. I could still feel its eyes on me, even though I couldn't see it anymore. It was still out there, waiting, watching, and I knew then that I was never going to be able to leave. That thing, whatever it was, wasn't just a creature from the shadows. It was part of this place, this rest stop. It was its home, and now it had made me its home too. I couldn't escape. I was trapped here forever. And it would never stop looking for me. The feeling of being watched never left me. Even after the door slammed shut and the voice faded into that maddening silence, the presence lingered in the air, thick and suffocating. I tried to steady my breathing, to convince myself that I was imagining things, but deep down, I knew that wasn't true. I couldn't explain what was happening. The more I thought about it, the more my thoughts tangled in confusion. What had I just seen? What had I heard? None of it made sense, yet I couldn't deny the terror creeping up my spine. My hand was still pressed against the restroom door, as though I was waiting for it to open again, for whatever was out there to get me. I knew I had to leave the restroom. I had to get away from this place before it was too late. But the moment I turned around to face the room, something caught my eye. A glint of light. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the overhead bulbs, but then I realized it was coming from the cracked mirror above the sink. There was a faint glow reflecting off the glass, almost like it was alive. I couldn't tear my gaze away from it. I moved closer, my feet dragging along the floor, my heart beating so loudly in my chest that I could barely hear anything else. I wasn't even thinking about the dangers that might still lurk behind me. The mirror, it felt like it was calling me. When I stood in front of it, my reflection was distorted. No, not distorted, warped. My face was still there, but something else, something wrong stood behind me, barely visible in the mirror's depths. The air around me turned cold, colder than I thought possible in a place like this, and the shadows seemed to shift. The reflection in the mirror wasn't mine, it was something else. A dark shape that was half human and half something else, twisting and writhing as if it was trying to break free from the glass. My heart skipped a beat. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My body felt frozen to the spot. I reached out instinctively, hand trembling, to touch the surface of the glass. As soon as my fingers brushed against it, a shockwave of ice ran up my arm, and I stumbled back, horrified. My reflection, the thing in the mirror, it was moving without me. It grinned, a wide, unnatural smile. It wasn't human, it was something monstrous, like the reflection of a thing that shouldn't exist in this world. My chest tightened as a voice, cold and guttural, echoed in my ears. "You can never leave." I gasped, recoiling from the mirror as if it had burned me. My head spun with dizziness, and for a moment I couldn't tell if what I was seeing was real. My hand flew to my eyes, desperate to wipe away the image, but when I looked again, the mirror was still there, reflecting everything back as if nothing had happened. Everything was normal. Except I knew it wasn't. I stumbled backward into one of the restroom stalls, trying to regain some sense of control. My mind was reeling, and I had no idea what was happening. The strange voice in the mirror, the thing I had seen outside the door, it was all too much. I slammed the stall door behind me, my back pressed against the cold metal. I was trying to calm myself, trying to convince myself that this was some bizarre nightmare. But deep inside, I knew it wasn't. The knock at the door came again. This time it was louder. Knock. 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 My body went rigid. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know what was on the other side. But I couldn't help myself. I stood, trembling, and slowly approached the door. My fingers brushed the handle, but before I could turn it, the whisper came again, this time more urgent, more insistent. "Let me in." The words weren't coming from outside. They were coming from the mirror, from behind me. I spun around, horrified to see the same twisted reflection. Its grin had grown wider, and its eyes glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. The thing in the mirror wasn't just a reflection anymore, it was pulling me toward it. The more I stared at it, the more I felt the pull, the compulsion, to step closer, to touch it. I didn't know what it wanted, but I knew it was waiting for me. My heartbeat hammered in my chest. The knock on the door echoed again, but this time it wasn't just a knock. It was something else. A sound that reverberated through the walls, a scratching noise like claws against wood. It was coming from both sides now, inside and outside, as if something was closing in on me from all directions. The thing in the mirror whispered again. "It's not too late. You can come with me. We can be together." A cold sweat broke out across my skin as I backed away from the mirror, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I couldn't stay here anymore. I reached for the door again, praying to escape from whatever this was. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something would stop me if I opened it. Something was waiting to take me. Something was already inside. The voice in the mirror, the scratches on the door, it all felt too real, too close, and I was suffocating. I couldn't stay in that restroom anymore. I had to get out. I had to leave before whatever that thing was could reach me. I rushed to the door, my hands trembling as I fumbled for the handle. The cold sweat on my palms made it slippery, but finally I managed to twist the knob. I swung the door open and staggered into the dimly lit hallway, but there was no relief. The moment I stepped outside, the air seemed thicker, heavier. My chest tightened, and my heartbeat quickened as I scanned the space, every corner feeling like it was watching me. I was trapped in this nightmarish loop, and no matter how fast I moved, there was nowhere to run. My legs felt like they were made of lead as I stumbled through the rest area. The fluorescent lights buzzed above me, flickering every few seconds, casting shadows that seemed to stretch unnaturally across the cracked tiles. The rest stop, the parking lot, the highway, it all felt like some distorted, otherworldly version of reality. I needed to leave. I needed to get back to the car, back to the highway, away from this cursed place. But then I heard it, a soft tapping sound. It came from behind me. My heart stopped. I wasn't sure if it was real or if it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but it was getting louder. Tap, 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 and then a slow, deliberate scratch, like nails against wood. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I turned around, my pulse racing. There was no one there. The hallway was empty save for the flickering lights, but the sound continued, echoing through the silence, growing louder, closer. Tap, tap. I spun around again, my breath coming out in short, frantic bursts. My heart was in my throat, and I was sure I was going to collapse from the overwhelming sense of dread that was creeping up my spine. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. The window. At the end of the hallway, near the entrance, a large, cracked window sat in the wall. And just behind it, movement. I froze. I could see the reflection of the hallway in the glass, but that wasn't what stopped me. No, it was what I saw inside the reflection. Something, was standing outside the window. It was staring at me. I could feel its eyes boring into mine, cold and unblinking, as the figure stood motionless in the darkness. Its features were indistinguishable, hidden in the blackness outside. But I knew it was there, watching, waiting. It didn't belong in the reflection. It wasn't supposed to be there. I backed away slowly, my mind screaming at me to run, to get away from that window. But my feet felt like they were glued to the floor, paralyzed with fear. I couldn't look away. I couldn't tear my eyes from that reflection. Tap, tap, tap. It was getting louder. The scratching sound, the thing outside, it was coming closer. I could hear it. I could feel it. I wanted to scream, but my throat was tight. My voice caught somewhere deep inside me. The thing in the reflection, it wasn't just watching me anymore. It was moving. Slowly, deliberately, as though it was reaching for the window. For me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I could only watch as it pressed its face against the glass, its eyes glowing in the reflection. The smile that spread across its face was wide, unnaturally wide. It wasn't human. It never was. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished. The window was empty. The figure was gone. The reflection was gone. It was like nothing had ever been there. But I knew something was wrong. I turned and ran, heart pounding, as the scratching behind me grew louder and more frantic, clawing at the walls, the doors, the very air around me. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't trust anything. I just needed to get to the car. And I knew that whatever was waiting for me outside, whatever was chasing me, wasn't going to stop until it had me. My hands were shaking as I reached for the door, my fingers slick with sweat, but I finally managed to yank it open. The parking lot was in front of me, deserted, empty, just as it had been when I first pulled in. The car was parked just a few feet away, but it felt like miles. I could feel it behind me. I didn't need to turn around to know it was following me. The scratches had stopped, but the air around me felt thick, charged with a strange energy, like the atmosphere was waiting for something. I took a breath, but it felt wrong. The worried felt wrong. Every step I took was measured, cautious. The silence felt unnatural, almost suffocating. And that was when I heard it again. Tap, tap. The sound, faint at first, grew louder, faster, coming from behind me. Not from the building or the walls, but from the darkness beyond the lot, beyond the faint glow of the parking lights. It was as if something was moving, something just out of sight, something that knew I could hear it. I didn't stop. My legs carried me faster, faster than I thought was possible, but every time I looked back, I saw nothing. Still nothing. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being stalked, that something was watching me from the shadows. I reached the car, hands fumbling with the keys. My breath came in quick bursts as I tried to get the door open, but the key wouldn't fit. The lock was stuck. The fear that had been growing inside me exploded into panic, my fingers clumsy and desperate. It felt like time was stretching, like the universe was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. And then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of footsteps. Not faint tapping anymore. No, this was heavy, deliberate, like someone or something was walking toward me, each step shaking the ground beneath my feet. I turned, my heart hammering in my chest. There, at the edge of the lot, just beyond the reach of the lights, was a figure. It was barely visible in the darkness, but I could see enough to know it was wrong. Too tall, too still. A silhouette, standing motionless, its eyes reflecting the faint glow of the parking lights. I could feel the fear creeping up my spine, tightening around my chest. The air was thick, heavy, like the atmosphere itself was choking the life out of me. I knew I had to move. I had to get in that car and drive the hell out of there, but I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I couldn't look away. The figure shifted, and that was all it took. It was like a switch had flipped, like some primal instinct kicked in. I couldn't stay here any longer. I couldn't breathe. I had to go. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, I yanked open the car door, jumped into the driver's seat, and slammed the door shut. My hands were trembling as I turned the key in the ignition. The engine sputtered, then roared to life. I didn't look back as I threw the car into reverse and slammed on the gas, my tires squealing as I tore out of the parking lot, heading back to the highway. My heart was in my throat, and every part of me screamed that I wasn't safe. That whatever I had just seen, whatever I had just felt, was still out there. I kept glancing into the rearview mirror, but there was nothing but the empty road behind me. For a moment, I dared to breathe again, but then the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I heard it. That faint tapping sound, tap, tap, tap. I looked in the mirror, and there it was, a black figure, a silhouette against the horizon, standing on the road behind me. It was moving, following me. It was chasing me. My pulse surged as I slammed my foot down on the accelerator, pushing the car faster than it had ever gone before. I couldn't stop, couldn't slow down. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't going to stop until it had me. The sound of footsteps, the tapping, it was getting louder, closer. The thing was gaining on me, but no matter how fast I drove, no matter how hard I tried to escape, it was right behind me. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't going to make it out of here alive. It was supposed to be a quick trip. A simple drive across the state, just a few hours down the highway to visit my family. Nothing special. But somewhere along the way, something shifted, and everything changed. I didn't notice it at first. Just a feeling, a slight nagging sensation at the back of my mind, like I'd missed a turn or passed the same road sign twice. But that's the thing with the highway. It all starts to blur together after a while. I'd been driving for hours, the rhythmic hum of the tires against the asphalt almost lulling me into a trance. The radio had stopped working an hour ago, static filling the air where my favorite playlist used to be. The only sound now was the engine and the occasional distant whistle of wind against my windows. When I glanced at the road signs, something caught my eye. I was on Route 95, just passing the turnoff for some small town I'd never heard of. But then, as the road curved around a bend, I saw something strange. A sign, a mile marker that read, "Welcome to Oak Ridge," but I swore I had already passed that town. It had been on a sign nearly 2 hours ago. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe I had taken a wrong exit, maybe the towns along the highway just started to look alike. I kept driving, the same stretch of road unfolding before me, and the miles seemed to stretch on forever. The trees on either side of the road looked too dark, the shadows too thick, even though it was just past noon. The sky had been overcast for a while, but the air felt heavier now, a strange chill sinking into my skin. I tried to shake off the feeling creeping into the back of my mind. Just focus on the road, just keep driving. But then I saw it again, the same "Welcome to Oak Ridge" sign staring back at me, like some cruel joke. It had to be a mistake, a glitch in the system, something wrong with the signs. There's no way I could be driving in circles, not on a road this straight, not when I had been driving in one direction for hours. I hit the brakes and pulled over to the side of the road. My breath came in shallow bursts, my heart racing as I scanned the horizon. The town didn't make sense. No matter how many times I looked, I couldn't remember ever passing through Oak Ridge, but here it was again, this town that didn't seem to exist. I checked my phone, but there was no service. Great. Just what I needed. As I stared at the road ahead, I thought about turning around and heading back. But when I glanced at the rearview mirror, my stomach sank. The road stretched behind me, an endless loop of the same trees, the same dull gray sky, the same "Welcome to Oak Ridge" sign just up ahead. I had driven past that sign twice, hadn't I? Or was I just imagining it? I was no longer sure what was real. The road was no longer my friend. It felt like a trap, a never-ending loop designed to keep me on this stretch of asphalt forever. I swallowed hard, trying to push down the panic rising in my chest. I had to find a way out. But no matter which way I turned, no matter how far I drove, I couldn't escape it. I was stuck in a loop, caught in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The highway had claimed me, and I wasn't sure I was ever going to get out. I thought I was imagining it. Maybe exhaustion had finally caught up to me. I hadn't slept well the night before, and with the constant hum of the engine and the monotonous landscape, my mind had begun to play tricks on me. That had to be it, right? But as I turned the wheel and pulled back onto the road, my grip tightening with each mile, I couldn't shake the gnawing feeling in my gut. The same stretch of road lay ahead of me, a flat, endless expanse. There were no other cars, no other signs of life. The trees were thick on either side, dark and towering, their branches twisting into strange shapes, as though they were reaching for me. The road had become a tunnel, swallowing me whole. I thought about pulling over again just to clear my head, but something told me it wasn't going to help. I'd seen the signs. I'd seen them all, again and again, like an impossible loop playing out in front of my eyes. I passed another marker. Welcome to Oak Ridge. I slammed my foot on the brake, sending the car jerking to a stop. My hands were trembling, the cold sweat now coating my palms. It couldn't be possible. I'd just passed that sign, twice. It was like I was moving in circles, trapped in the same section of the highway, like the road was somehow shifting. My eyes darted around the landscape, hoping for some sign of change, some indication that I was actually making progress. But no, nothing had changed. The same barren stretch of road was ahead of me, the same thick trees, dark and ominous, the same empty silence. Welcome to Oak Ridge. I had to turn around. There was no way this was just a mistake. I had to get off this road before it drove me insane. I spun the wheel, almost violently, and began to reverse. But the road was unforgiving. I wasn't sure how far I'd gone, but as I glanced into the rearview mirror, I couldn't help but notice that the trees looked too familiar. I was sure I hadn't passed that same cluster of twisted oak trees before, yet now they were standing there in front of me as though waiting. I turned again, this time with more determination, but as I looked ahead, I froze. The same Welcome to Oak Ridge sign was there, right in front of me, as if mocking my every move. I slammed on the brakes once more. I had driven in the other direction, hadn't I? I had reversed, taken a different turn, tried to leave. How was this possible? The same damn town, the same stretch of road, appearing over and over like it was part of some sick, twisted game. I turned off the engine and sat there in the quiet, the low hum of the wind outside the car, my only company. My breath came out in uneven bursts as I tried to think, tried to make sense of what was happening. It was impossible. I'd been on the road for hours. I had seen that sign, and now it was back again. How could it be? Then in the distance, I saw something else. A figure, moving along the side of the road. It wasn't quite human, but it was moving fast. Too fast. My heart stopped. My mind screamed for me to drive away, to get out of here before whatever that thing was caught up to me. But my body didn't move. I couldn't make my hands turn the wheel, couldn't force my foot to press the gas pedal. The figure got closer, and that's when I realized it wasn't moving toward me. It was moving with me. It was following me. I turned the key, starting the engine with a snap, and sped down the road again. No turning back. No looking in the rear view. I had to escape, had to get off this damned road before I became part of it, like all those other drivers who had vanished without a trace. But as the miles went on, and the figure remained just out of view, I realized one horrifying truth. I wasn't in control anymore. The road had me, and there was no way out. I wasn't sure how much time had passed. Hours? Days? The sky had long since darkened, but the road remained eerily lit by the headlights of my car. I had driven in circles for what felt like an eternity, each time passing the same Welcome to Oak Ridge sign as if it were mocking me. I tried to keep my focus on the road ahead, but I knew, deep down, that nothing was going to change. The highway had a hold on me. The figure. It was still there, just beyond the edges of my vision, following me wherever I went. I hadn't seen it clearly, never close enough to make out any details, but I knew it was there. The feeling of being watched, of being hunted, was suffocating. And the longer I stayed on this highway, the more I began to feel like I wasn't alone in the world anymore. I had to keep moving. There was no other choice. The moment I stopped, I knew it would catch me. So I pressed down harder on the accelerator, my hands gripping the wheel tighter with each passing second. My eyes were glued to the road, but every now and then I couldn't help but glance in the rearview mirror. It was there. The figure was closer now, just out of the headlights' range, but I could feel it creeping closer. Something in its movements was unnatural, too fast, too deliberate. I wasn't just being followed, I was being hunted. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was just overtired, but deep down, I knew it wasn't true. I wasn't the only thing on this road, and the thing behind me didn't care how far I drove, how fast I went. It was waiting for me to stop, waiting for me to make a mistake. And then, as I passed yet another Welcome to Oak Ridge sign, I noticed something else. A new sign. It was small, placed right by the edge of the road. At first, I thought I was just seeing things, but no, there it was, carved into the wood with jagged letters. "Don't look behind you." I froze. My foot hovered over the gas pedal. The sign couldn't be real. It didn't make sense. It wasn't on any of the signs I'd seen before. The thing that had been following me, was it trying to warn me? Or was it trying to keep me trapped here, just like it had trapped all the others? I shook my head. No, I couldn't focus on that. Not now. I had to keep driving. If I looked behind me, if I let my fear control me, I knew I would be lost forever. But just as I was about to press the gas pedal and continue down the road, I caught sight of something in the distance. A light. A faint flicker on the horizon. Hope. A sign of civilization. I turned the wheel, pulling toward the light, praying that this was the end of the nightmare. The figure was still there, still lurking, but the light, the promise of safety, was just ahead. It was a town, it had to be. I drove faster, pushing the car to its limits. The light grew brighter, and soon enough I could make out the outline of buildings in the distance. The road curved slightly, and just as I thought I was about to reach salvation, I saw another sign. "Welcome to Oak Ridge." I gasped, my heart racing in my chest. I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop. This couldn't be happening. It wasn't real. I had driven away from Oak Ridge. I had seen the road signs, the towns, and yet here I was, right back where I started. I was trapped. The highway looped around, a never-ending cycle of twisted signs and haunted roads. I had ignored the warning. The thing that had been following me wasn't just some figment of my imagination. It was part of the road, part of this place. And I had made the mistake of looking back. I was never leaving. The car idled in the middle of the road, the engine sputtering in the eerie silence. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. I didn't know what was real anymore. Every time I thought I was escaping, I ended up exactly where I started. The same sign, the same cursed stretch of highway. But something had changed this time. I could hear it now. The whispering. At first, it was faint, barely audible over the hum of the engine. But the longer I stayed in one place, the clearer it became. The voices were low and drawn out, as if they were coming from beneath the pavement itself. They seemed to rise from the road, wrapping around the tires, crawling up the sides of the car. The whispers filled the air, making my skin crawl. I wasn't sure if the sound was coming from the car, the road, or my own mind. But it didn't matter. The whispers spoke in a language I couldn't understand, but their intent was clear. They were beckoning me, pulling me deeper into the loop. I turned the key in the ignition again, desperate to break free, but the engine wouldn't start. The dashboard flickered, the lights blinking on and off like they were struggling to stay alive. I tried again. Nothing. The silence pressed in on me, heavy and suffocating, and then I heard it. A knock on the window. I froze. It was barely a sound, a light tap, but it was enough to make my heart skip. I stared at the darkened glass, too afraid to look. I could feel something, someone, out there, waiting. The whispers grew louder, now swirling around me, a chorus of voices all demanding the same thing. "Let us in." I wanted to scream, but my throat felt tight. I couldn't make a sound. Slowly, I turned my head to the side, glancing toward the window. My breath caught in my throat when I saw it. A figure. Tall and dark, standing just outside the car, its face obscured by shadow. It was still, watching, waiting. The figure didn't move, but I could feel its presence, pressing against the glass as though it was trying to get inside, to reach me. I knew what I had to do. With trembling hands, I shoved the car door open, ignoring the voices screaming at me not to. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but it was better than the suffocating silence of the car. I stepped out onto the road, my feet sinking slightly into the gravel, and turned toward the figure. It hadn't moved. I didn't know if it was a person, an entity, or something else entirely, but I knew one thing. It was part of the road, part of this hellish loop I couldn't escape. There was no way to outrun it, no way to outdrive it. The road was alive, and whatever this thing was, it was tied to it. "Please," I whispered, my voice cracking. I just want to leave. The figure remained motionless. Suddenly the whispers surged, growing louder, more frantic. They were no longer distant sounds. They were all around me, inside my head, pushing me to listen, to understand. And then, in the midst of the chaos, I heard something I hadn't expected. A voice. Clear. Human. You can't leave. The words were soft, barely above a breath, but they cut through the noise in my head like a blade. I turned sharply, searching for the source, but there was no one there. The figure outside the car remained still, and the whispers faded back into the distance, leaving only the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears. I took a step back, a chill crawling up my spine. The road didn't want me to leave, and it wasn't going to let me. I turned, running back to the car, my breath ragged in my chest. I jumped into the driver's seat, my hands shaking as I tried the engine again. This time, it started, the engine roaring to life. But as I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw the figure again, standing just behind me, unmoving. The whispers came back, louder now, more desperate. You're ours now. I slammed my foot on the gas, speeding down the road. The lights of Oak Ridge blinked in and out of view, but the figure never moved. It stayed with me, just out of sight, following me in the dark. The road was shifting beneath me, the lanes curling like twisted tendrils, pulling me deeper into its web. And no matter how fast I drove, no matter how many turns I took, the road always brought me back to where I started. I was trapped. There was no escape. And as the figure disappeared into the darkness behind me, I realized the horrifying truth. I wasn't the first to be caught in this loop. And I wouldn't be the last. I first noticed it on a lonely stretch of highway late one evening. I'd been driving for hours, my eyes heavy from the long trip and the hum of the road. The night had swallowed up the landscape, leaving nothing but a black void on either side of me, broken only by the pale light of my headlights. My mind was starting to wander, the monotony of the drive making me lose focus. But then, something caught my eye. A flicker. At first I thought it was a trick of the light, some illusion created by the reflection of my headlights bouncing off something in the distance. But then, I saw it again, a brief sharp flash of light, out in the fields beside the road. It wasn't the soft glow of a street lamp or the light from another car. It was different. Intense, almost unnatural, like a star had fallen from the sky and was now flickering just out of reach. I slowed the car instinctively, squinting into the darkness. I wasn't sure why, but something about that light felt wrong. It wasn't right. I had a nagging feeling that it shouldn't be there. I debated whether to keep going or pull over, but curiosity got the best of me. I turned off the engine, the sudden silence in the car deafening. The only sound was the distant rustle of leaves in the wind and the soft ticking of the cooling engine. The light flickered again, its pulse steady and rhythmic. I could see it now, just ahead on the right, deep in the field. I couldn't make out what it was exactly, just that it was there. I turned off the headlights and grabbed the flashlight from the passenger seat. I had to check it out. I had to know what it was. As I stepped out of the car, the cold night air hit me, and I pulled my jacket tighter around my body. The grass underfoot crunched as I moved toward the light. It seemed like it was getting farther away with each step I took, always just a little further than I could reach. But I kept walking, my feet carrying me through the tall grass, my heart pounding in my chest. The closer I got, the brighter the light became. It was no longer a flicker. It was a glowing orb, hovering in midair, suspended above the ground, like it was being held up by some invisible force. It was a pale blue color, almost white, and it pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. I stopped a few feet from it, mesmerized by the glow. I didn't know what I expected, but this wasn't it. There were no wires, no source I could see that could explain the light. It wasn't natural. It didn't belong here. I reached out a hand without thinking, drawn in by its pull. My fingers brushed against the air around it, and a strange feeling washed over me. It was cold, colder than it should have been, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I could feel something shifting in the air, a presence, like the light was aware of me, watching. Just as I was about to touch it, I heard a sound, a voice, soft but clear. "Don't." I froze, my heart leaping into my throat. The voice was distant, but I could hear it as if it was right next to me. It wasn't my own mind playing tricks. There was someone else here. I spun around, but there was no one. Only the field, empty and still, stretching out into the darkness. I took a step back from the light, my pulse racing. What the hell was going on? Who had spoken? The light flickered one last time and then it was gone. Vanished into thin air as though it had never been there at all. I stood in the middle of the field, breathless, my flashlight shaking in my hand. I couldn't understand it. I hadn't imagined it, had I? The light, the voice, none of it made sense. But the chill in the air told me something had just happened that I couldn't explain, something I wasn't meant to see. I didn't know why, but I felt a sudden, intense need to get back in my car. I turned and walked briskly back to it, not daring to look over my shoulder. My mind raced as I fumbled with the keys, unlocking the door. Once inside, I locked the doors, my hands trembling as I put the car in drive. I didn't look back as I sped away, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the light wasn't the only thing out there, in the dark. The drive after that incident was a blur. I kept my eyes glued to the road, hands tight on the wheel, and my mind racing with 1,000 questions. What had I just seen? Was I going crazy? I told myself that I would chalk it up to exhaustion, or maybe just a freak natural phenomenon. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. I didn't stop for miles, pushing my car to keep moving, hoping that I could outrun whatever I'd just experienced. The further I went, the more it felt like the world was closing in on me. The road stretched endlessly in front of me, but the pull to turn back, to go back to that field, was almost magnetic. I fought it every inch of the way. About an hour passed before I saw something that pulled me out of my thoughts. A car, parked on the shoulder of the road ahead. It was an old sedan, its lights off and the engine silent. As I got closer, I saw the figure of a man standing next to the car, his back to me, staring out into the darkness. He didn't look like he was in distress, just standing there, unmoving. My curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to pull over, hoping to offer assistance or at least make sure he was okay. I parked a few feet away, the dim glow of my headlights casting long shadows over the deserted highway. I opened the door, feeling the cool air hit me, and approached the man. He was dressed in a simple jacket and jeans, but there was something strange about the way he stood, his body rigid, almost as if he was waiting for something. "Hey, you all right?" I asked, my voice tentative as I took a few steps toward him. He didn't answer at first, just stood there, staring into the night. I was about to speak again when he finally turned his head slowly, just enough for me to see his face. His eyes were wide, almost too wide, like he hadn't blinked in hours. And there was something about his expression, something hollow, distant. He didn't seem surprised to see me, but it was clear that something was wrong. "I saw it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. I paused, unsure how to respond. "Saw what?" He looked past me, back toward the darkness, then back at me. His lips trembled as he spoke again. "The light, the one you can't explain. It's not right, it doesn't belong here." My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone about what I'd seen. There was no way this stranger could have known, but he did. He knew exactly what I was thinking. "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" I asked, trying to stay calm, but my heart was hammering in my chest. My legs were starting to feel like jelly, and I realized I was backing away from him, instinctively trying to put some distance between us. "The road is a loop," he said, his eyes unfocused now, like he wasn't even seeing me. "A loop that traps you. If you keep going, you'll keep seeing it. You won't be able to stop." His words felt like ice running through my veins. The light, the voice, and now this man telling me I was stuck. It didn't make sense, and yet somehow I felt it deep in my bones. He wasn't lying. "What do you mean, a loop? Are you telling me the road is, what? Alive?" My voice wavered. I was starting to doubt my own sanity. The man blinked, his eyes clearing for a moment. "It's not the road. It's not the light. It's everything. The air, the people, this place." He paused, his face crumpling as if the weight of the words was too much to bear. "You won't be able to leave. No one ever does." A chill ran down my spine. There was no reason for him to be saying these things, and yet everything about the way he spoke, the desperation in his voice, made me feel like I was in the middle of a nightmare. I took a few more steps back. "Look, I think you need help," I said, my voice shaky now. "Maybe you should get in your car, get to a hospital or something, get checked out." But he didn't move. He stood there, staring at me like he was seeing something beyond me, something I couldn't understand. "You'll see it too," he murmured, almost to himself. "And when you do, you'll never get out. It doesn't let you. It won't let you leave." I couldn't take it anymore. I turned around and ran back to my car, slamming the door shut as soon as I was inside. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My hands were shaking as I started the engine and pulled back onto the road, my tires screeching against the asphalt. The man's words echoed in my head, but something else gnawed at me, something worse than fear. What if he was right? What if that road, that light, was more than just a random occurrence? What if there was no way out? I didn't know, but one thing was certain. The road, the night, and everything in it had already started to change me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. The road stretched endlessly in front of me, the headlights barely cutting through the thick fog that had rolled in. The man's warnings echoed in my mind like a haunting melody, each word dragging me deeper into a pit of dread. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, hoping to see the man's car, hoping to see something familiar, something that would tell me I wasn't as crazy as I felt, but all I saw was darkness. I tried to push the thoughts away. I wasn't going crazy, it was just exhaustion, that's all. But every time I thought about it, I couldn't help but feel that something or someone was watching me. The road, empty as it was, felt alive. It was as if the asphalt itself was breathing, undulating beneath my tires in some subtle, almost imperceptible way. Suddenly, the lights ahead of me flickered. I froze. It was the light. I knew it instantly. That same eerie glow from before, the one that didn't belong. But this time, it was different. It wasn't far off in the distance, like the first time. It was right there, just ahead, hovering above the road like some kind of beacon. The glow flickered again, growing brighter for a moment before dimming back to its unnatural soft light. My breath caught in my throat. I should have turned around. I should have stopped. But the car kept moving, as if the road itself was guiding me. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. I could hear the tires on the pavement, the hum of the engine, but it all felt distant. The world outside the car seemed to fade into something unreal. Like I was drifting further from reality with every passing mile. The light grew closer, and with it, the dread intensified. I couldn't stop myself. I was heading toward it, unable to break free from its pull. The man's warning, "The road is a loop, and once you're on it, you can't leave," played on repeat in my head. I didn't want to believe him, but how could I ignore what was happening? Every part of me screamed that I had to turn around, that I had to find a way out, but the road didn't let me. It was like there was no exit, no way to break free. And then, as if the world had turned against me, the light changed. It wasn't just a light anymore. It was something else. It grew larger, brighter, and for a moment I thought I saw shapes flickering in the edges of the glow, figures moving inside it, shifting like shadows trapped in some impossible space. My pulse quickened. There was something wrong about it, something so wrong that it made my skin crawl. My foot was on the brake, but I couldn't stop. I wasn't in control anymore. It was like the light had seized me, like it had some kind of grip on my mind, pulling me forward into whatever lay ahead. Suddenly there was a noise, a deep, vibrating hum. It came from the light, or maybe from the road itself. It rattled my bones and made my head spin. I tried to keep my focus, tried to look away, but I couldn't. I was trapped in its pull, and then I saw it. A shape moved across the road in front of me. I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching as the car lurched to a stop. My heart pounded in my chest. There, standing in the middle of the road, was a figure. The man from earlier, standing in the exact same spot where he had been when I'd first pulled over. His eyes were wide and unblinking, locked onto me as if he were waiting for something. I wanted to scream, but my throat was dry, my voice lost in the overwhelming terror that had taken over my body. I couldn't move. I couldn't look away. Then, without warning, the man started walking toward the car. His steps were slow, deliberate, as though he were drawn by some invisible force. He didn't break eye contact, and with every step he took, my breath grew shorter, my panic deeper. What did he want? Why was he here? Was he real? The hum from the light grew louder, the vibrations shaking the car. I glanced at the rearview mirror, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw another car, no, something, tailing me. But when I turned back, the road was empty again, just darkness. The man was closer now, just a few feet away from my car, his figure outlined in the eerie light that still glowed in the distance. And then he spoke. "You can't leave," he said, his voice a hollow whisper that sent a jolt of ice through my veins. "None of us can." I stared at him, trying to process his words, but it felt like my mind was breaking under the weight of it all. My heart hammered in my chest. The man's face, his eyes were not human anymore. They were wide, impossibly wide, filled with a strange, unsettling emptiness that spoke of something ancient and beyond comprehension. Suddenly he stopped. And just as quickly, he turned around and started walking back toward the light, his figure swallowed by the glow. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I was paralyzed with fear, watching as the man, or whatever he was, disappeared into the light, leaving me alone on the road. My mind screamed at me to drive, to get out of there. But the car wouldn't start. The engine sputtered, then went dead. I tried again, panic clawing at my chest, but nothing happened. I was stuck, stranded, and then I heard it, a voice, faint but clear, coming from the radio. "Turn back," it whispered. "Turn back while you still can." The car lights flickered, and the air grew thick with dread. The road was no longer just a road, it was something alive, something that wouldn't let me leave. And the worst part, I wasn't the first one to be trapped here. I was just the latest. The silence inside the car was suffocating. The engine was dead, and no matter how many times I tried to restart it, the car refused to respond. My mind raced, heart pounding. The man in the road had vanished, swallowed by the light, but I could still feel his presence, like a cold shadow lingering just outside the car's windows. The radio crackled again, a harsh, static-filled sound. For a moment, I thought I was imagining it, but then the voice came through, distorted but clear. "You're not alone." I froze. The voice was unmistakably the same as before, the one that had whispered for me to turn back. My stomach twisted. I wasn't alone? What did that mean? Was the man still out there? I glanced around, but all I saw was the thick fog rolling in, blocking any view beyond the reach of my headlights. The mist seemed to move in unnatural patterns, swirling and shifting as if it were alive. I quickly turned the radio dial, hoping for a signal, hoping to hear anything other than that unsettling voice. But all I got was static. The air around me felt heavy, thick with something I couldn't explain. A distant sound pierced through the stillness. A low hum. It wasn't the usual hum of my car's engine or the sound of wind through the trees. No, this was something different, something far too deep, vibrating through my bones. The noise seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It made my skin crawl. And then I saw them. Out of the corner of my eye, figures began to appear in the mist. At first, they were just shadows, indistinct shapes moving through the fog like they were searching for something. As they drew closer, I could make out their forms more clearly. People. But they weren't like anyone I'd ever seen. Their faces were pale and ghostly, with hollow eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. Their clothes were old-fashioned, worn and tattered, as if they had been traveling the road for far longer than they should have. But what stood out the most were their expressions. There was no fear in their eyes, no curiosity, just an endless, hollow stare, like they had seen too much, experienced too much, and were now beyond caring. One of them stopped in front of my car. I couldn't make out details at first, but the figure's presence was chilling enough. It was as though time itself bent around them, making the moment stretch and warp into something unbearable. I wanted to roll the window up, lock the doors, anything to distance myself from this growing nightmare, but the car's engine still wouldn't start. The figure raised a hand and pointed toward the road. I followed the direction of its finger, and in the distance, I saw what it was pointing at. A light. But this light wasn't like the one I had seen before. This one was dim, flickering sporadically, as if it was barely hanging on to its existence. That's when I heard the voices, not just one voice, but many. Soft whispers, low and unintelligible, but growing louder as more figures emerged from the mist. They moved like a wave, a collective presence, surrounding my car, filling the air with an eerie, unintelligible hum. I couldn't make sense of it. My heart raced, and every instinct screamed at me to drive away, but the car wouldn't start. I was trapped. The figures weren't just standing around anymore. They were circling, drawing closer, inch by inch. I could hear their feet shuffling against the gravel, their breath shallow but steady, like they were waiting for something. "Please," I muttered to myself, "please just let me leave." But the mist thickened. I couldn't see anything beyond the fog now. The figures were close enough that I could hear their breathing, steady like a rhythmic pulse. There were too many of them. Too many for me to escape. They were closing in on all sides, and I realized with a sickening jolt that they weren't just watching me. They were waiting for me to do something. Or maybe waiting for something to happen to me. I glanced back at the misty road ahead, the flickering light still barely visible. I had to move. I had to do something. But the door handle wouldn't budge. The cold in the car deepened, and the temperature dropped so quickly that my breath fogged up the windows. The mist outside pressed against the glass, like it was trying to invade the car itself. My hands were shaking as I grabbed the door handle again, pulling, but it was useless. The door was sealed tight, as if the fog itself had fused the car to the road. "Help!" I screamed, but no sound came from my mouth. The air was thick, and it felt like my voice was swallowed before it could even escape. I turned back to the figures. They had stopped moving. Now they were just standing there, staring at me with those hollow, empty eyes. They weren't coming any closer, but they weren't leaving either. The silence in the car was unbearable, and the only sound I could hear was the hum that had now grown into a steady, pulsating rhythm, like a heartbeat too slow, too deep to be real. I turned to the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the light closing in, but what I saw made my stomach lurch. A figure was standing right behind me, just outside the car window, its face pressed up against the glass. It was grinning, not in any way that could be described as human, but in the same hollow, unsettling way the others had been staring at me. Its eyes were wide, unblinking, its smile far too wide to be natural. I could see its teeth now, yellow, jagged, and sharp. It didn't make a sound. It didn't have to. Suddenly I felt it, the pull, the light ahead, the whispers around me, the shadows moving closer. It all wanted something from me. The engine roared to life. I don't know how. Maybe the fog let go for just a second. Maybe the car finally gave in. But I didn't hesitate. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, and the car lurched forward. I didn't look back, but I could still hear the whispers. They followed me, hanging in the air like a constant presence, and I knew that no matter how fast I drove, I could never outrun them. I was already too far gone. The road had me, and there was no turning back. It was supposed to be a quick drive, just a simple trip down an old, forgotten stretch of highway to clear my head after a long week of work. My phone's GPS had guided me onto the winding road, and the moon was a pale sliver in the sky as I left the city behind. The night air was cool, the kind of chill that settles in your bones, but I didn't mind. I always enjoyed the solitude of nighttime driving, the world outside feeling distant and quiet. But tonight was different. As the miles ticked by, the road seemed to stretch longer and longer, the dark trees along the edges of the highway closing in, like they were pushing me forward. It was a stretch of road I'd never been on before, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Everything felt oddly still, as if the entire world was holding its breath. No other cars in sight, just me and the hum of the engine slicing through the night. Then I saw the headlights. At first, I thought it was another car behind me, but when I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw nothing. Just an empty stretch of asphalt, stretching far into the darkness behind me. Still, the lights had been there, bright and blinding for a second, just over my shoulder. I shrugged it off. Maybe it was a reflection, or just my eyes playing tricks in the dim light. But then they appeared again, this time on the horizon, coming closer with an unnatural speed. Too fast for how empty the road was. I pressed my foot down on the gas, hoping to outrun whatever it was. The car ahead seemed to gain on me, the headlights growing larger in the mirror. My heart began to beat faster. It didn't make sense. There couldn't be another vehicle this far out, not at this hour. As the lights grew closer, I glanced around, searching for somewhere to pull over. The road was narrow, with no shoulder to speak of. The trees on either side formed an unbroken wall, leaving nowhere to go. Just as I began to wonder how much longer this was going to go on, I noticed something strange. The headlights weren't just headlights. They were too bright. too high, like the vehicle was towering above me. And there was something off about the light itself. It had a strange flicker, like an old lamp running out of power. I slammed my foot down on the brake, the car screeching to a halt. The headlights were now only a few hundred feet away, a glowing mass in the dark. But as I stared at them, I realized that they weren't getting any closer. They just hovered there, frozen in the distance, as though the car wasn't moving forward at all. My hands were shaking as I clutched the steering wheel, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The headlights blinked, once, twice, and then, as though some invisible signal had been given, the entire mass of light jerked forward with terrifying speed, and the sound of engines roaring to life filled the air. I felt the blood drain from my face. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I threw the car into gear and sped off again, my heart pounding in my chest. The road stretched out in front of me, but now it seemed endless. The lights, those strange flickering headlights, followed, growing closer with every second, no matter how fast I drove. I could hear them now. More than just the engines, there was something else, a low, rhythmic sound that seemed to match the beat of my own heart. And there was something else too. The faintest whisper of voices floating on the wind, impossible to decipher but unmistakably there. I glanced to my left, my breath catching in my throat. In the distance, I could see shadows moving. Tall shapes, looming figures that seemed to blend with the dark trees, emerging from the sides of the road. And then I realized I wasn't just being followed by one car. I was surrounded. The headlights, now in a perfect line, formed a convoy, an endless stream of ghostly vehicles, their lights flickering in and out of focus. It was as if the convoy was built from the very darkness itself, an army of cars bound to the road. The whispers grew louder, but still, I couldn't make out the words. I pressed down on the gas harder, my hands gripping the wheel until my knuckles were white. But no matter how fast I went, the convoy kept up, matching my speed. And those lights, those headlights, never wavered, always just behind me, always there, unblinking, relentless. I turned my eyes back to the road, praying that I would reach the end of this nightmare. But I knew, deep down, that I wouldn't. The road stretched on forever, an endless loop of dark, lonely asphalt, and I was beginning to understand that once you took this road, there was no turning back. And then the first car of the convoy passed me. As it drew closer, I saw the figure inside. No, figures. The driver's seat was empty, but there were shadows, hunched shapes, moving in the windows, too many to count. They were watching me as they passed, those dark, hollow eyes following me like I was the prey. I blinked and looked back ahead. The road was still endless, still stretching into the dark. The convoy wasn't just following me, it was trapping me, and I couldn't escape. I kept driving, my foot glued to the accelerator, the sound of the engine drowning out everything else. The lights behind me were growing, brighter, closer. I was moving fast, faster than I should have been. But no matter how much I sped up, no matter how many sharp turns I took, the convoy kept pace. Every time I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw the same ghostly line of headlights, undisturbed, unwavering. I kept telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks. Maybe it was just another car, and I was tired. Maybe the isolation of the road had made me start imagining things. But every time I looked out of the corner of my eye, I could see them. Too many cars, stretching on forever, their lights flickering like dying stars in the darkness. I didn't dare look back directly anymore. I couldn't. I was scared that if I did, I'd see something that I couldn't explain. Something I wouldn't be able to unsee. I thought about pulling over, just stopping, and waiting for the convoy to pass, but I knew better. The road was empty. There were no exits, no signs for miles, just a never-ending stretch of pavement and trees. And I couldn't help but feel that if I stopped, if I let myself give in to the terror bubbling inside me, it would only get worse. The convoy wasn't just following me, it was waiting for me to stop. I drove on, the tension in my chest tightening with every mile. The air in the car felt thicker now, suffocating. The windows were rolled up, but I could still hear them. The whispers, low, constant murmurs, as though hundreds of voices were speaking in unison, their words too faint to understand but too close to ignore. They were everywhere, seeping in from the corners of the car, crawling through the cracks in the windows, growing louder and louder. I didn't dare open the window. Even if I could hear them, I knew the voices would be nothing compared to what might reach me if I let in the night air. Then came the first sign that something wasn't quite right. A flash of red appeared in my side mirror, just for a second, like a burst of color that shouldn't have been there. A brief glimpse of something strange just off the edge of the road. I turned my head, heart leaping in my chest, only to find nothing. Just the endless dark woods. But I couldn't shake the feeling. That moment was too vivid to be a trick of my imagination, and then it happened again. This time, a flash of white, bright as a beacon, danced in my peripheral vision. I swerved to look, my heart pounding, but again, nothing. The woods were empty. The road was empty. But the whispers, they were growing. I wanted to scream, wanted to shout at myself for being so foolish. What was I doing? Why hadn't I turned back? But I knew the answer. It wasn't about turning back anymore. I didn't have a choice. The road wasn't letting me go. The convoy wasn't letting me go. Hours seemed to pass. The world outside had become a blur of dark trees, flickering lights, and the haunting, rhythmic hum of the engines behind me. I was starting to lose track of time. The road was the only thing that existed now. Endless, twisting, never-ending. My car, the lights, the trees, they were all a blur of motion, the world warping around me in a way I couldn't explain. Then the first car in the convoy pulled up beside me. It didn't happen gradually. One moment, I was alone on the road, and the next, there it was, pulling alongside my vehicle. It was a truck, massive and black, its headlights so bright they burned my retinas. The truck moved at an impossibly slow pace, as though it was simply observing me. But as it crept closer, I saw something in the driver's seat. There was no driver. Just a shadow. It was the same as the figures I'd seen earlier, those dark shapes moving inside the vehicles. The thing that was in the driver's seat was no longer human. It was a form, twisted and formless, its body hunched, its head too large for its neck. The eyes, they weren't eyes at all. They were two pools of black ink, deep and endless, staring directly at me. My heart stopped. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so hard, I almost couldn't keep the wheels steady. The truck hovered beside me, never moving ahead or behind, just pacing my car, matching every speed I made. And then, just like that, it was gone. I don't know how to explain it. One moment it was there, glaring at me, its presence suffocating, and the next it vanished. No sound, no movement. It just disappeared into the dark woods as though it had never been there at all. But I knew it was still out there, watching me. I didn't look in the mirror this time. I didn't need to. The whispers had stopped, replaced by a heavy silence that filled the car, pressing in from all sides. I had the sickening sense that the road itself had changed, like it was a living thing, bending and shifting, leading me deeper into something I didn't want to understand. I was trapped. And the worst part was that I knew I wasn't alone. I thought that maybe I'd imagined the truck. Maybe I'd convinced myself that I had seen something I couldn't explain. It was late, and the isolation of the road, the endless hours of driving, had to have been playing tricks on my mind. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just my imagination. The feeling of being watched never left me. It clung to me like a second skin, and no matter how much I tried to push it away, it remained. There was something wrong about this road. Something unnatural. I kept telling myself that I just needed to get to the next exit, to leave all of this behind. But the road stretched on, unyielding and endless. There were no exits, no signs, just the same monotony of asphalt, trees, and the occasional flicker of headlights in my rearview mirror. And the whispering was back. It started as a soft murmur, like wind rustling through the trees, but it quickly grew louder, more distinct, more human. Faint voices, overlapping each other, murmuring in languages I couldn't understand. It was a constant presence now, filling the car, pressing against my eardrums, drowning out all other sound. The road had become something else. The night was no longer just dark. It was oppressive, heavy, pressing against me with an intensity that felt suffocating. The trees on either side of the road seemed to lean closer, their branches outstretched like hands reaching for me. Every now and then, I caught glimpses of shadows in the trees, shapes that moved but didn't belong. They were the kind of shapes you couldn't focus on, always out of the corner of your eye, just beyond your reach. I glanced in my rearview mirror again, my grip tightening on the steering wheel. There were no headlights behind me now, no convoy. For a moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe it was finally over. Maybe whatever had been chasing me had decided to leave me alone. Then I saw it. A figure standing in the middle of the road ahead. It was too far away at first for me to make out any details, but I saw it clearly enough to know that it was human. It wasn't moving, just standing there, perfectly still. I didn't know what to do. I slowed the car, my pulse racing, my fingers trembling on the wheel. What if it was just someone in need of help? What if they were stranded? But something in my gut told me that wasn't the case. Something told me that the figure wasn't human, or at least not like any human I'd ever encountered. As I drew closer, the figure came into sharper focus. It was a man, standing in the middle of the road, but his face was wrong. It was pale, too pale, and his eyes were wide, unblinking. His clothes were ragged, hanging off his frame as though they had been worn for years without ever being changed. And the worst part? His mouth was stretched open, wide, impossibly wide, as though it was too large for his face to contain. I slammed on the brakes, the car screeching as it slid to a stop just inches from the figure. My heart was hammering in my chest, my breath shallow and fast. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. The figure didn't move either, just stood there in the middle of the road staring at me with those wide, vacant eyes. The air felt colder now, like the temperature had dropped by several degrees in an instant. I was frozen, unable to look away from the figure. My hands were trembling, my breath visible in the suddenly frigid air, but the man didn't move, didn't blink, didn't speak. And then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he stepped back into the darkness, vanishing into the woods on the side of the road. I didn't wait for a second longer. My foot slammed back on the accelerator, and I sped away, not caring where I was going, just desperate to put as much distance between me and that thing as possible. But no matter how fast I drove, the whispering returned, louder now, as though the voices were all around me. They were speaking in unison, but the words didn't make sense. I couldn't understand them, but I could feel their meaning, deep in my bones, seeping into my mind like poison. I didn't dare look in the rearview mirror. I didn't dare stop. The road wasn't just a road anymore. It was a trap, and there was no way out. I don't know how long I drove. The minutes and hours blurred together, my eyes glued to the road, trying to ignore the oppressive feeling that had settled in my chest. The air was thick, suffocating, and my hands were slick with sweat as they gripped the steering wheel. I just wanted to get out of this place. I kept telling myself that if I kept moving, if I just reached the end of this godforsaken road, everything would go back to normal. But the road didn't seem to end. The headlights on either side of me seemed to stretch on forever, and the trees kept getting closer, as though they were closing in around me. The whispers never stopped, those voices in the dark, growing louder, more insistent. Sometimes I thought I could hear my name mixed in with the murmurs, but when I turned to look, there was nothing. Then I saw it. A truck. At first, it was just a dot of light in my rearview mirror, but as I kept driving, the light grew brighter, closer. It wasn't like the other headlights I had seen, the ones that were distant, flickering. No, this one was steady, following me. It didn't move off to the side like any other vehicle on the road. It stayed directly behind me, just far enough that I couldn't make out the truck's shape, but I could feel its presence, heavy, unyielding. The dread in my chest grew, gnawing at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the same truck, the one I had seen earlier. But that didn't make sense, right? The one with the driver who had looked like a shadow in the night? I glanced in the rearview mirror again, and my heart nearly stopped. The headlights weren't just headlights anymore. There was something moving in the light. Figures, shadows, shifting inside the cab. It was as though the truck was alive, the shadows inside it twisting and writhing, like something was reaching out to grab me. I pressed my foot down harder on the accelerator. The truck stayed behind me, matching my speed. No matter how fast I went, no matter how hard I tried to outrun it, the truck remained locked onto me. It was like it was tethered to me, pulling me along this endless stretch of road. And then I realized there was no other road. I hadn't passed a single exit or side street for miles. It was just this one road, and it was getting darker, colder, more suffocating by the minute. I took a sharp turn, hoping to throw it off my trail, but the truck mirrored me perfectly, turning at the same angle, its headlights burning in my mirror, blinding me. I slammed my hands on the horn, desperate, terrified, but there was no response, no sign of any other cars. No one was out here. Just me and that truck. I kept driving, my mind racing. There had to be something I could do. I couldn't just let this truck follow me forever. The trees were so close now, their branches reaching out over the road like dark hands, and the night was thick with that suffocating silence. The only sound was the hum of my engine and the low rumble of the truck behind me. Then I saw them. A pair of glowing lights up ahead. More headlights, but they weren't from a car. No, these were too big, too far apart. As I drew closer, I saw the outline of another truck, massive and looming in the distance. It was part of the convoy, the one I had seen before. My stomach dropped, and I felt my grip on the wheel tighten, my knuckles turning white. There were more of them now, not just one truck. Several. The headlights, like a parade of ghosts, lit up the night ahead of me. They were all moving in the same direction, in a perfect line, just as I had seen earlier. I had no choice but to follow, trapped in this endless loop. The convoy was closing in. I could hear them now, all of them. The trucks, the whispers, the shadows inside. It was like the world was collapsing in on me, and I was right in the middle of it. I couldn't tell what was real anymore. My mind was spinning. I glanced in the rearview mirror, and there, just behind me, was the truck that had been following me. It had somehow caught up, now flanking me on both sides, with the other trucks ahead. I was surrounded, trapped. The whispers grew louder, more frantic. I couldn't tell if they were coming from the trucks or from inside my own head. My heart was pounding, my breath coming in short gasps. I was screaming at myself to stop, to wake up, but it didn't matter. The convoy wouldn't stop, and I had no choice but to drive forward. I was stuck in the loop, and it was never going to end.
Stories may end, but the fear remains. Subscribe to uncover more secrets hidden in the darkness. Until we meet again in the world of nightmarish shadows.